Welcome back, everybody, to the rebirth of 6 on 6. I know it's been quite a while since this show has been live, and I know that we continue to promise that we will adhere to a dedicated schedule, and then we'll release one episode and then disappear for 8+ months, or give or take. Well, this time things are a little bit different. Number one, you might notice that the person sitting next to me isn't exactly the guy that I usually sit next to. Unfortunately, my co-host and co-founder, Troy Canadian, is unable to commit to our schedule due to his commitment to Shopify Rebellion. So I brought in Siege's most eligible content creator bachelor, Mr. Fettuccini. Fett, how are you doing today?
Yo, it's me. You're really good at that. That's one take. That's crazy. That's insane to me. It's like I do intros and I go multiple takes. That's the production talent in you.
I've done it a few times, and I mean, we've rehearsed 6 on 6 before. For you, is this your first major dedicated podcast? I know you've done stuff on social media. I know you do stuff on TikTok. I know you have your own YouTube channel, but is this the first time you're sitting down doing a real bona fide podcast for Siege?
Yes, the first time I'm dedicating to one. I actually did one with Penguin just for PSG once before. I do remember that. But then this is the first dedicated one. Absolutely.
How was that experience?
It was good. It was good. I like chill convo. I tried to make my own podcast and it ended up being like more interviewy, but I like really like chill convo. Yeah, trying to come up with stuff, I would just like blank out sometimes. So I'm glad I have you.
Well, I thankfully have some experience doing it. I mean, I'm far from perfect, and it's always kind of nerve-wracking when you have to be the guy who drives the ship. You and I are co-hosts, so for people who are unaware, it's going to follow the same format that it followed when Troy was sitting next to me. Number one, when we are in season, meaning that there are stages of Siege actually being played, one of the major changes to the new 6 on 6 is that we won't be bringing on guests every single week. It's mostly just going to be Fett and I. There is a third co-host, not named Troy, who will be joining us from time to time. His name is Mint. You might know him from all the teams he's played on and the teams that he's coached. Most recently, people will affiliate him probably with DZ, as that was his long tenured role over there. He's now also a content creator, but he's a bright guy. He does co-streams just like you do, Fett. And I think he'll be able to bring some maybe veteran presence. I think if you look at the way that Siege has been lumped together over the years, you've got the beginning years, you've got that big middle ground, and now you've got the new faces. I would say that you are one of the biggest new faces that's emerged in the last couple of years. For people who know Mint, they've known him since the very beginning. So he actually predates me even. I feel like I've been around forever, but no, he was around before I was. So having somebody to join us to be able to talk about veteran stuff, whether it be teams, whether it be players, whether it be the scene before it got to this point, it'll be nice to have him on board. Troy will join us if time permits, but he's quite busy. And the only day he typically is free is Saturday. We don't want to give up our Saturdays. They're far too valuable. And despite the fact that we are all gamers, we do have somewhat of a social life. So if Troy can join us, he will. He's still involved in 6 on 6 in the back end, and I'll still be bouncing ideas off of him. I'll still be soliciting feedback from him. The other thing that you'll probably notice is that we've actually joined a podcast network called Last Free Nation. If you watch Counter-Strike content, if you watch League of Legends content, you've almost certainly seen stuff that's been spread around by some of the channels and some of the shows. I can see that Fett is obviously very excited about this. Last Free Nation is a content creator driven podcast network. It's effectively, for those that are even somewhat political, it's kind of like a workers' cooperative. It's owned by the people who work on the shows, who do the podcasts, who do stuff in the back end. And basically profits are shared between both the company, which is owned by the creators, and the people who are on the shows. So yes, eventually, maybe not today, but eventually we will be running ads, which means that we will be getting paid for this work, which is a bit of a change because up until this exact episode, we have never profited off of 6 on 6. The only money that has been made from the show was when I would live stream it on my own personal Twitch channel, and whatever money would come through via subscriptions or ad revenue, that was it. And most of the time it was nothing. We would maybe make like 30 to $100 an episode. Our costs far outweighed the amount of money that we made. So here we are. We will be doing ad reads at some point. If you like podcasts without ads, unfortunately, you're out of luck here, but got to keep the lights on somehow. And the reason why I was drawn to Last Free Nation, and the reason why I finally, after years of being offered to join Podcast Network, said no, was because it is content creators first and foremost. There are a wide variety of shows, many of which have been announced, some of which might still be coming soon that you can keep an eye on for a variety of different games, some of which I watch, and I'm excited for those podcasts to launch, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll just tease it for the audience. The one thing that I really liked about Last Free Nation is that they want you to control your content, and they want you to control the ads and the sponsors that you pick up. I'm sure most people are very aware of the landscape of esports and the fact that revenue opportunities are very quickly falling away. And the big elephant in the room that a lot of people are split over is the emergence of a particular government that has been very heavily investing in esports, buying up leagues, buying up tourney organizers, buying up players. And there's been a rift, obviously, between talent as to whether or not they want to take that money, whether or not they want to travel to that country, whether or not they want to be a part of those events. I've made my position very, very clear. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. And that's just one guy making his piece known. So this is a great way for us to be in control of our content, know who owns it, know that we also partially own it, and are, at the end of the day, a free nation where we get to determine who we work with, when we work with them, and on what terms. So that was a major allure for us. So for those that are unfamiliar with Last Free Nation, it is a worker-led and worker-owned podcast network, and it's nice to be a part of them. There's some good shows on it, and I hope that you're able to tune in. And who knows, maybe we'll be appearing on other shows. And maybe, Fett, if you did ever want to bring back your own podcast, maybe you could do so here.
Yeah, maybe. Sadly, I think after that last episode, I'm not, because it was painful. Like when I blank out, it's bad. I blank out a lot, so I'm glad. Like, look at this. I have the greatest talent of all time next to me, right here. Hopefully, my hands are pointing the right direction.
I'm gonna make this.
He just win and win. He just spoke. I don't even need to think or talk. This is great.
I'm going to make this as easy for you as humanly possible. And I promise you it does get easier. I know from when I first started casting, the brain that I use to just talk to normal people and even just talk about video games versus the person you are when you're on camera is very different. And slowly but surely they meld together. And over time, you know, I've watched some of your content from when you first began, you know, years ago. And then I've watched some of your content recently. And there's a marked improvement, like there is with everybody, right? There's growth. And I don't mean that in like a condescending way. I mean that genuinely, like you've settled into your role and it's been great. But it's not just content. Why don't you tell the good people who are listening a little bit about yourself? Because there's a reason why you're no longer involved as a coach of a team. And why is that?
Okay, yeah. So I competed as a professional head coach in Siege from like 2023 to the start of 2024. And then by then I already applied to a PhD program and I got in. So I knew like that first stage 2024 was going to be my last stage. So I completely rebuilt the team with that in mind. And then I somehow like coin flipped won a major. That was great. Great luck. W fluke major. And then I was like, you know what? I don't got time to practice anymore. I got time to make content. So now I make content. The general goal for my content was to like bring more eyes to Siege Esports, be like the K-Droll of Siege or the Tarek of Siege. I think I've somewhat succeeded in that. A little unhappy with how I'm doing now, but we push on. We push on. It's all about persistence.
Why are you unhappy with where you're at?
Because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like, and then we'll talk about this like in a little bit. So actually we could save this for a bit later, but I feel like the overall interest in Siege is going down and I'm not seeing, I think the esports interest also, because I think like people were telling me like, oh, the only thing I'm looking forward to is the esports season now. But then again, also the esports interest is going down. And that kind of makes me feel like, well, then it's on me to be entertaining so that people want to watch me and then I'll bring them into Siege. And then I could be like a you know, like a Chinese Jinxie. But I haven't been Chinese Jinxie so far. I've kind of just been like fading into irrelevant. But it's okay. We keep pushing. We keep pushing. We keep going. We don't stop. Have you ever stopped?
I mean, yes, I have stopped. I've stopped the show. I've stopped streaming. For a period of time, health issues forced me to stop casting as well. So, I mean, I have definitely stopped before. And I mean, in content creation, as you know, stopping can often be the kiss of death because people lose interest in your content. People go elsewhere. I mean, people say 15 minutes of fame, but in esports, it's far less than that, right? There are times where you might have just a couple months worth, which seems like longer than 15 minutes, but in the grand scheme of esports is much smaller. You do tend to pull excellent viewership, not just on your YouTube, but also when you stream on Twitch. So I'm not sure if your metrics are trending downwards, again, this will tie into a topic that we'll get to later, which is overall interest with the new Operation High Stakes launching.
Yeah.
But do you find that there's any motivation issues on your end? Do you find that a lack of content motivates you less, or does it motivate you more to stretch your legs and realize you don't have Rainbow Six to help you during this, next 3 months until whatever operation comes next? Does it push you to create your own content and create your own news?
It does, but at the same time, it's more like I just feel bad because I don't have all my eggs into Siege anymore. Like before, it was like everything all at once into Siege. Like with Siege Esports, I would quit. Had a TikTok that was successful, as you know. It made me a really good living, more than it like being a coach actually paid me. And I gave that up to focus on that 2024 stage 1, and then that's when I did my best. So like the general trend, I can't give everything else up for content right now because like that's the frustration. Like I feel like if I went all in with Siege content, I could accomplish what I wanted much faster. But because I'm going into lab, my number one priority is like I'll miss like a huge game if I have to do a cell culture or do some important lab shit, right? So you know what? That's my number one prio right now. I think the science matters more right now, but at the same time, it frustrates me because like I know if I win all in, I can probably achieve my results that I want like right now. But at the same time, long game's fine. Long grind is fine. Little dip, little persistence. We'll get there.
It is a bit of a bizarre thing to realize that you will be immortalized in like the halls of esports for the foreseeable future, right? Like people will be able to go back and rewatch my casts from 2017.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Presumably 20 years down the line. I don't have kids, and frankly, right now there are none imminent, to arrive in this world. But if I had a kid, my child could be watching my body of work in 5-10 years, give or take. And it's crazy to think that. And I mean, you've obviously cemented yourself, not just through your content work, but you are a coach who won a major. There are a tiny number of people who can say that they've done that. You've accomplished that. And now you've given up the glory for long-term consistency outside of esports. And I don't think there's a single person who's going to tell you that's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea compared to YouTube, but it's not for the money. It's not for the money. It's for the mission. That's for the mission that we're going to cure diseases.
I appreciate you're going into medical sciences and all that for a noble cause, but I imagine it also pays decently well. And the one thing that, again, a lot of people gripe about in esports is that the opportunities to get paid in this industry are getting smaller and harder to come by. So it's actually kind of funny because we had your team on for our very final episode before we went back into hibernation. So it's a nice little bookend here. You don't have to share the microphone with 3 other people on your team. So
yeah, I fucking hate those guys.
It's
all beef. It's all beef. I didn't retire. I got dropped. Yeah, I mean, fuck those guys, bro. What the hell?
We'll have an opportunity to talk about 4 of those 5 players as they are still all on the same team, even though it's not the same team that you were on. But let's actually get to the real goods here. So for those that have not been paying attention, basically we're with Last Free Nation now. We are in control of our own destiny. Troy is still involved in the background, and if he's available, we'll have him on the show. I know that he's actually just down the road at the Shopify offices. I could get to his house in about a 10, 12, or I can get to their office in about a 10 to 12 minute bike ride. He and Spoit are both in Toronto. Yeah, they're boot camping here.
You should just pull up, like just for no.
just have Troy just pull up.
I'm sorry.
We just move the microphone around, just the 2 of us. The bigger issue is not his physical location; it's his availability. He tends to scrim until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. For those that are aware, you can see that obviously Fett's background shows you that it is nighttime. We are also no longer live. That's another difference. We do not go live on my stream anymore. We might get around to doing live shows at some point, but for the foreseeable future, we will be doing a pre-recorded and edited podcast that will then be put up on whatever, social networks, podcast networks, etc., the next day or the day after that. And it'll be coming out at the same time every single week. It's to be determined because we are still, as of the recording of this episode, we're still trying to iron out what day and what time it will go live at. So if you are watching, we are in the past. We are talking to you right now in the future. Whenever it goes live is when it will go live, moving forward. The only caveat to that will be if there's like super weeks or if I'm at a live event. And the goal is For me to do stuff at live events, whether Fett can join or not is obviously another consideration. And then another thing we'd like to do is that after majors and big events, we want to get the winning team on to do, like we've done in the past, team interviews. And then when the stages are not running and we have the off season, which is, people know there is a bit of a lengthy off season with Rainbow Six, what we will be doing is that's when we'll be bringing guests on to tell their story, because there are a lot of players, there are a lot of coaches, there are content creators, maybe even devs, who knows, that are affiliated with this game and involved with this game who have not had a platform to tell their story. And I think it's very important, not just for them, but also the health of our ecosystem, that these people get the spotlight that they deserve, just as you did, Fett, just a couple moments ago. So thank you to everybody who's been watching 6 on 6 for the last almost 5 years. We were, for a brief period of time, the most watched Rainbow Six Siege Esports podcast. Ideally, we get back there. We don't have a lot of competition these days, but who knows? This is the rebirth. So let's get things underway with our very first topic, which, Fett, happens to be Operation High Stakes. This is the newest operation that came to Rainbow Six Siege. We have a new operator joining us. It's a defender. His name is Denari. He's from Switzerland. He's got a new gun. He's got a very cool and intuitive gadget that is very unique and one that content creators seem to like very much. We saw some changes to operator loadouts. There's a new secondary SMG that's now been given to even more operators that's immediately had an impact on the meta. I think a good starting point here is, what is your immediate takeaway with Operation High Stakes? Are you a fan? Is there enough content? Is there not enough content? Are you not a fan? I'll leave the floor to you.
I'll actually leave that to the end, because I see on our little note docket right here, I think this has to do with the issues with the game. But I'll talk about Denari real quick. I think Denari's great. I think Denari's a good operator for the casual community. For Pro League, it's been a bit underwhelming. That's the biggest thing. And I was wrong. I looked my eyes in the camera and I told my viewers, this is the best trap operator in the game. It is not the best trap operator in the game. It is a very site-specific trap operator in Pro League, at least. The reason for that being is typically, I was like, okay, this guy can put a trap anywhere. He's the best trap operator in the game. He can cover multiple doors. He's the GOAT. He's not the GOAT. You know why he's not the GOAT? Because he can't put a trap on a staircase going upwards. If you go downwards, you can get it underneath that little thing. You know what I'm saying? Upwards, no. And that's where barbed wire is important. Legion mines are important. Melusi's are important. Fenrir's are important. With Fenrir and Legion losing their secondary shotgun, I was like, wow, Denari's going to replace him. Definitely not. But we did see a couple. It's very site specific, because there are very specific sites where you can cover multiple doorways with like one laser, and that's where he's super good. We also saw on CEO that a pro team stacked Aruni gates and like 7 lasers all on 2 windows, presumably for burn, which is actually really cool. One thing I'm unhappy with is the fact that they nerfed him immediately before even release. I think some people were like, I mean, it's a good sign that they're willing to change something before it gets alive, but I actually think we could have seen it a bit. But oh well, I mean, beggars can't be choosers. We used to say like, oh, why would you let this get to live server? Shit's broken, and now they didn't do that, and now we're like, what the fuck? Why would you not let this go? You know, so yeah.
The time old issue of there's no winning when you're a dev. Right?
Yeah.
You either release a Blackbeard or a Lion or an Ella or the second Blackbeard, or you release an operator that makes no immediate impact whatsoever, right? And I mean, the list of that is actually quite small, because especially when we were in like that, I don't know, the long winter of defenders where we had Solus, we had Azami, we had Fenrir, all 3 of them back to back to back, you know, Azami, Solus, Fenrir. And they just were bonkers strong, and they didn't touch them for so long. I will say, there is always this internal battle at Ubisoft, and I've talked to devs about this, with they have to balance the needs of an esports community, but more importantly, the significantly larger casual community, right? Mm-hmm. And there's this, you'll see it on social media, whether it be, you know, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube comments, the subreddits that are around. The casual community does not take kindly to esports balancing, superseding the needs of a casual audience, right? And it's like, even if it's something like, oh, you know, we're going to make a small change to Jackal because he's performing too strong in Pro League, casual players will revolt, even though if that change was made and they were never told about it, most of them probably wouldn't even notice it. it almost becomes like a point of pride. Like, I don't want the game balanced around these pros. I want it balanced around me. And I mean, it's not even that you're balancing for a casual versus competitive environment. You're also doing it for PC and console players, which makes it
It's
infinitely more challenging. I mean, have you ever played the game on console?
No, I haven't, but I've heard like so much is different about the game. I mean, not really exactly, but like the F2, for example, is a Top Gun. Like people play Goyo for the entirely opposite reasons. On PC, you play Goyo because, or at least in Pro League, you play it to waste time and stop playing. So you play it for the gun over there. The fact that it's like, and apparently like recoil with the, I know it's not different and it's not less recoil, I'm pretty sure, but the input for the recoil is much easier. So the F2 on Twitch is like just disgusting. Like you just laser people with that with a million miles away, and people complain about it, but it's like, what are we gonna do? Nerf it so that PC players can have the old F2 again? No.
You've also got the issue that a lot of people who play on console will play on a TV that is an unspecified distance away from them,
Yeah.
potentially with not great sound capabilities, whereas a lot of computer players are going to be playing with headphones on with a monitor relatively close to their face, right? You know, as I'm sure you've played couch games before, that when you're sitting on a couch playing a console game, you're not sweating anywhere near the level that you tend to be when you're wired in on your desk, microphone up your face, you know, headphones on your head, monitor this close to your face. Like when you're playing on PC, it's a much more general competitive setting. Obviously, people have bad computers, and you know, you get guys who, you know, in places where it is legal, maybe smoke a little bit of the, you know, the green stuff and then put on music at full volume, and then they don't, you know, they don't really take it as seriously. I don't know about you, but there have been games that I've played where I'll be like, man, how did you not hear that? And this guy will do this. They'll go, what? Dude, my music's so loud, I can't even hear. And I'm just like, why are you playing ranked right now? Why are you just not playing like casual or quick play or something where you don't need to use your brain? So you've got to balance for people like that too, because people like that do exist. Do you think that Denari, before the nerfs came in, do you genuinely think Denari was too strong?
No, not at all. Before he came out, like I can never say, because when I saw him and I saw the laser come back up after 4 seconds, I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like that doorway is just insane for attackers for the entire round. And now that he's out, I'm like, oh, that's not crazy at all. So it really comes with just it coming out. I will say though, on the balancing, and I don't want to get into this too much, but the games that I've seen with the most longevity, like by far, are the ones balanced around their esports scene. Now, that's not to say I don't understand the casual player's frustration, because I absolutely do. Because when I play a different game like League, and I see like, why the fuck would they do that? And then I come back to this game, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Why they would do that? But it's Apex balances out like all the big esports, all the common staple name esports that are still alive, that have huge player bases, Valve, League, Apex, CS, all of these games balance around their pro community. So like, I know it's frustrating for you casual guys, but I promise you, it's like for the long run in the game, it has been proven to be more of a stability thing.
And you have a huge casual audience too. I don't. I ever since I started streaming, I have worked really hard to chase away the casual side of this game, and not deliberately. It's just obviously being an esports commentator and being somebody who wants to see the top level shine the brightest. My focus is always going to be on what's best for the pros is typically best for the rest of the community. If a pro player cannot take an operator and break it beyond belief, a silver player is probably not going to be able to do that. There are a couple exceptions to this rule, I will say. Number one, Caveira is almost entirely useless at a top level because teams coordinate, they have microphones, they're not going to get surprised by her. I do say this because I am well aware of the many clips in pro play over the last couple of years where somebody will blind pick a cav and then hide and then sneak up on a pro player. It does happen. I get it. But all you need to do is watch a live stream of somebody who's playing around like silver, gold, even plat level, and you'll just watch Caveiras run amok on these players. Because again, you've got somebody playing on a couch, 8 feet, 10 feet away from their TV, no headphones on, and a Caveira comes running up behind you and you're dead and there's nothing you can do. Whereas if you're playing in, you know, Champ, you're probably going to have a bit more wherewithal because you got to that point likely playing in a more competitive setting. Another thing too is shields. To your point about console being different, the only couple times I've ever played Rainbow Six Siege on console, I am a dreadfully poor aimer with controllers. I do not like playing first-person shooters with a controller in hand. I just find it's too imprecise. I am not very good with it. Give me a mouse and keyboard. I'm not much better with a mouse and keyboard, but I certainly feel a little bit better. But when you play on console, shields are so broken because a lot of the people you're playing against also struggle with that imprecision, and there's no aim assist. So people are spraying wildly and you've got a shield in front of your face and you're blitz, they're probably not going to hit you. All you need to do is hit a couple pistol shots and you're in great shape. I digress.
Yeah.
So why do you think they made the changes to Denari then? What do you think drove this decision if Denari was never broken in the first place?
I think it actually might have been our fault. I think I'm gonna be real. I think it's just the thing of like you said, the dev can do no right. Like we keep complaining about how does it make it a live build? That doesn't make it a live build. And then this time they actually listened. I'm sure some people, myself included, I said out loud. I didn't say it to them in the test, but I said it because I never was in the test. But I said it out loud on a social media or stream somewhere, and I was like, "Yeah, that recharge time is so fucking fast. That's crazy." Just to hype it up, for a video. And I thought it was crazy, but they just removed it. So that's our fault. But I will say, like when they made the Blackbeard change, I do like have a little less sympathy for some people on the balancing spectrum because it's like they made the Blackbeard change where if you reload, the shield comes down, right? And this guy was like, they just gutted Blackbeard. I mean, he's so bad. And I was like, but I said an opinion that like he's gonna basically be the same. Like he's gonna basically be the same in pro play. And he's like, what do you mean? He's so bad now. And I was like, okay, why do you think he's bad? Because now he has to reposition when he reloads. Like, that isn't a thing with every other operator in the game. That's first-person shooter games, Parker.
For what it's worth, Blackbeard's ban rate through just stage 2, just of the North America League. Let's focus on North America right now. That's because that's my bread and butter here. We've been seeing a lot of Blackbeard. His prominence rate, his pick rate is 23%. His ban rate is 40%. The only operators that are more involved either in pick or ban than him are Grim, Blitz, Dokkaebi, Monty in second, and Ying overall in first. So like think of that lineup, right? Like hell is empty. All of the devils are here. You've got Ying, you've got Montaigne, you've got Dokkaebi, Blitz, Grim, and then Blackbeard. And then things get a bit normal. Then you've got like Ace and Nomad and Capitao. Like Blackbeard is still up there. He's still seeing tons of play. Like whereas you've got like a Denari who's in the basement.
Yeah. Like
his pick rate in NA has almost exclusively been confined to Nighthaven Labs. So it's just like you nerf a problematic operator, but then you nerf a new operator, which again is really not what they do. Ubisoft has said time and time again, and a lot of game devs say this, it is better to release a broken operator, get data points on where they're broken, and then amend the operator's loadout, abilities, skills, magic, whatever, depending on the game, obviously. Because while it's annoying, obviously, that you have a busted operator, you're still getting valuable information. It's not the case with Denari, and you can't really win. By the way, for those that don't know what Denari does, he's got 7 of these little cube gadgets that are called trips, trip mines, whatever you want to call them. One alone doesn't do anything. But if you throw 2 that are within visible distance of each other and there's nothing blocking that line of sight, it will create a laser between the 2 of them. Where things get really cool is that you can do more than just 2. It's not just like an old Capcan trap where you put it down on the door frame and then there's a laser through the door frame and you either take a certain amount of damage or you blow up an insta-kill, depending on when you started to play and depending on what Capcan looked like at the time. But Denari, you can create like a spider web with his gadgets that do damage, burn utility, give information away, and then they recharge as well. And as we saw on that Nighthaven Labs that I casted last week, you can put them in places where it's very hard for them to get destroyed. Was it Garfield as Doc? Did you see that thread that was talking about on Twitter about how like impossible certain bomb sites are to get rid of his stuff? Did you see that? Was that Garfield?
That was me. Well, I don't know if Garfield also did it, but I
saw a couple people do it, and I saw it took off. But I mean, obviously, you can talk about your tweet as well. Please market yourself.
Oh yeah, I was just responding because I love biting rage bait. That's like my whole thing. It's like why not get angry at the world? That life would be too boring. So then I was responding to the people saying like, just shoot it, just break it. Yeah, like the door's here, and one laser's on in Narnia over here, and then the other one's on others on a Narnia. Just break it. Yeah, just wide swing the laser and shoot it. But no, yeah, 100%. I think the devs are right. I think you should add it broken. I think what would help Siege a lot is being more amenable to like a mid-season patch. The same way, like I know
when they used to do the mid-season reinforcements.
Yeah, I know they still do them, but I like more like just being willing to like honestly even hotfix. Like if they release an operator that's just like literally Jesus Christ himself, they like hotfix is fine. I mean, I don't think pros would be that upset about it. And like honestly, sometimes I look at some things and I'm like, fuck the pros. Operators, I'm like, you know what? Listen to the pros. Honest to God, as now that I'm like detached more, I play the game less. I have BKO. I like ball knowledge loss is a term I call it. I feel myself. Sorry, Pengu. I feel myself becoming like basically Pengu, where it's like I had that past experience, but it's like it's so default to the pros at the point. Either way, some things I'm like fuck the pros, and I think you make changes as necessary. I think that's okay.
I think the one big thing that pros do tend to miss out on is the fun factor. Like Siege Siege to me is not a fun game. Like I don't understand people who can play Siege just casually for fun. Like when I play Siege, I load up the menu, I'm already sweating. It's like I moved my computer into a sauna. Like I'm ready. Like a bunch of my friends, maybe they will do, maybe they'll also do some like grass if it's legal where they live, or maybe they'll have like a couple like like a couple beers and they'll be like, let's get loose, let's play Rainbow. And I'm like, why do I want to play a game where if I'm even slightly impaired or distracted, I'm going to die and then do nothing for 3+ minutes or 2+ minutes? That doesn't sound like fun to me. I'm going to play a game like Call of Duty, like Overwatch, like Marvel Rivals, like even like some of the League game modes, League of Legends, where it's like that is something that's fun to do. I don't understand why when people like Siege is fun. Like Siege to me is like, it's a sweaty game. It's very tactical. It's immensely competitive. There are a lot of frustrating aspects of it. I've never really understood why people play it for fun, but I say that because I know that there's a huge portion of the audience that does. And I have read some suggestions that pros have made in the past about operators that I'm like, that would kill the operator. They wouldn't be fun. Like I understand that it would be more balanced and I understand it would change the game, but it wouldn't be fun. A good example of that right now, and I don't know how you weigh in on this, is the ongoing discussion about the changes that some of the community want to the one-shot headshot rule. Now, I will say, before anybody gets very angry at me, I have in the past said that if a bullet goes through a surface and hits your head, it should not be an insta-kill. There is nothing more frustrating than somebody blind firing at a barricade or a wall or a floor, and one errant bullet strikes your head from miles away and you insta-die. That is not fun. I do not find that skillful gameplay. I don't think there's anything good about that. But then people go even farther and say, well, certain guns shouldn't be a one-shot kill if it hits you in the head. I think part of what makes Siege fun is the one-shot headshot. I agree with them. I agree with Macy. I agree with Pengu. I think that if you want to raise skill expression in Rainbow Six Siege, you get rid of one-shot headshot for most weapons, unless it's like a DMR or a sniper rifle, or it's a certain gun at close range. But I don't care enough to really argue about it. I'm curious to know, and I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but I'm very curious to know where you weigh in on that topic.
Siege is brilliant because of one-shot headshot. Like Siege is a one-shot headshot. I agree with the surfaces. I think that's the middle ground that would make everyone happy. There's a famous clip of me on Twitter where I like sprint past the White Hall window on Cafe, and a guy that climbed up the ladder on the roof randomly tapped that window and insta-killed me off the rip, and I got like 7,000 likes. I think like, yeah, I agree. That's where.
Sorry, you just had to. How many likes did you get? Could you repeat that again?
Oh, hold on. Okay, maybe it wasn't 7,000. It was like maybe like 2,000, 3,000.
So, I mean, that's still if that's a recent clip for a good for a dead platform like Twitter. That is that's pretty good. You do rack up the Twitter likes. I will say your Twitter game is very strong.
I'm a great farmer. I love farming.
You farm.
I'm a big farmer. Yeah.
You're a big farmer living in where are you right now? Not a farm. Famously
Chicago.
Famously, yeah, Chicago, known for its farms.
Known for its farms. Yes.
Known for its farms. I do think it's a good middle ground, but I think there are obvious frustrations with it. I remember seeing a clip of King George way back in the day. This was the old skyscraper. So remember when you used to be able to run out of like that back stairs, like on the top floor, you used to be able to run out and you had like a little terrace there and people would run up from the helipad. They'd run up the stairs and you have a clear line of sight. I remember one time King George was being a little shit and he decided to do that with, I think it was Rook back when, you know, the ACOG was the ACOG and it was before like the 1.5. Some guy as Fuse is walking up the stairs. King George lights him up. The guy doesn't even ADS. He just hip fires with the Fuse LMG and one of those bullets hits King George in the head and kills him.
Yeah.
And I mean, King George is a screaming baboon most of the time. But I think he broke his microphone's noise gate at that point in time with how loud he yelled. And I can't say I would have reacted differently. You know, there have been times where I've played where it's like I'm just running past a wall, a random wall, and somebody will just like fire through a barricade through a wall and it'll hit me and I'll die. And I'll be like, great, that's terrific. I love this, you know? Also, it helps with the cheating because what do cheaters do? They lock onto your head through surfaces and they insta-kill you. It might actually allow you to live for one bullet longer, which doesn't really make much of a difference, but at least might give you time to hide. Who knows?
Yeah, I think hip firing and the wall banging is the most frustrating part. But yeah, one thing about the pro, I want to get your take on this because I've had this opinion now for a while. Now that I've watched a lot of Pro League, like as a spectator, pure spectator, not a competitor.
Okay.
I think a big thing that could bring more audiences into Pro League is actually making the map pool more casual friendly. Because when I watch consulate layer 700 times in a row, I get lethargic of that shit. I'm not gonna lie. Nighthaven and Skyscraper is like a little better for the eyes. I think they should add Coastline. I think they should add back Oregon. I think removing Oregon was a mistake because Jinxie 1v1s made that shit the most recognizable map in the world from Siege, and then they removed it one stage later. Boom, Oregon back. That's fine. Pros are fine with that. The part where they like get really angry with me is I'm like, they should add Coastline. When was Siege most popular? Bolo played Bolo's clutches, Coastline. That guy's a Coastline crutch, right? 22 round game, Empire versus G2, Coastline, boom, banger, recognizable. Oh, but it's gonna be so attacker shotted. Well, so what was Oregon when it first came out? 5-1 defender has expected. 6-0 defender has expected. Every single one. Theme Park, same thing. First came out 5-1 or 6-0 on defense, or you lose the game.
Villa. Villa was when Villa was released. It was the most defender-sided map at the time in any map pool.
Exactly. So what's wrong with a map entering the pool and you expect it to be 6-0 attack, and then eventually people figure it out? So map pool is one of the things where honestly, fuck the pros. Honestly.
So here's the only thing I'll say is before I give you my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch a game like Counter-Strike, and I'm aware that Counter-Strike and Rainbow Six have very different fan bases. I also understand that they are just very different games to begin with. Counter-Strike is another game that I'm just, unless I'm playing like gun game, I'm not able to play casually in the slightest. It is just, It is a game that I play. Again, I'm sweating the moment I load it up. But do you ever get bored of watching Inferno, Nuke, Train, Dust, etc., you know, Aztec, as they obviously cycle out maps, so do we. But do you ever get bored watching, oh, it's Dust again, oh, it's Nuke again, oh, it's Aztec again? Like, does that bore you with CS?
I haven't watched enough to know, but I think there's a reason why it's still a massive esport. You know, I think it's iconic. Like it says something that Dust 2 is still able to rotate back into the pool. You know,
I firmly believe Dust 2 is one of the best competitive maps ever. It's up there with like what is it, Opposing Worlds or Facing Worlds, which is one of the maps from Unreal Tournament. Like it's iconic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think when you look at a game like Counter-Strike, their map pool tends to have less flexibility than ours. Obviously, you look at a game like League of Legends, they only have one map. Obviously, the champions that you run on the map are very important, and there are changes to the map, right? When the Drakes spawn, and you can get little changes depending on what Drake it ends up being, what soul ends up being, whether it's Wind Soul or whether it's Fire, etc. You know, or Flame Soul, whatever the hell it's Inferno Soul or whatever the hell it's actually called. But it's like, I'm of two minds of this. I have long said that we should put maps like Canal, like Favela, like Fortress in the map pool just to see what happens, right? Because the one thing that I always go back to about this is Finca. Finca sat untouched for years with her adrenal surges, with her nades, and with her LMG, and everybody said she's terrible. She's awful. There's no reason to use her. She's garbage. And then, admittedly, a couple operators did get nerfed. And then people were like, well, what about Finka LMG? And then they were like, oh my God, Finka LMG is so good.
Mhm.
And now you can run Zofia LMG. You can run Capitao LMG. Oh my God. The same thing goes to, what is it? Was it the Krieg in CS2? Or well, at the time it was CSGO.
Yes,
It sat untouched forever. And then somebody just started using it and they're like, this thing is horrendously busted. And then it ended up getting nerfed. Did anything change? No. It's just pros aren't, some pros, most pros are not adventurous. They don't want to explore. They want to lock down a couple operators. They want to lock down a couple maps. They want to be the best in the world at that. And they want to win money and they want to win championships, right? Look at Virtus Pro. Virtus Pro plays the same, like 3 maps. They play the same operators. There's very limited flexibility. You know, way back when. Yeah. And it's like, there are a lot of pros that are not interested in changing things up. And I remember, I'm obviously not going to spill the results of this, but I remember when Skyscraper originally got removed from the map pool years and years and years ago, all of the teams that voted against removing it were the teams that liked playing it. No surprise there, right? But it's not like, that's not them saying, hey, this is a good map. This is them saying, hey, nobody else plays this. We're really good at it. We want it to be in the map pool selfishly because we're good at it.
Yes, every team's, and it's hard to like speak against that bias because my least favorite maps in Pro League are the ones we sucked at the most when I was a coach. Like, it's just how it is. Like, you think it's the worst map because your philosophy of the game doesn't match with it, but it's like, it's a natural. But someone actually brought up, like, another pro brought up, like, a really, really interesting idea, though, is forced rotation. So every stage, 2 maps have to go. And every stage, one of the previously added 2 maps has to stay. And I think for Rainbow Six, that might be sick. Because I think the thing with the viewer, or at least for me, is like once a map's been here for a while and the defaults kind of become this little mind-numbing default. You know, like you watch when Consulate first came out, you watch the guy rappel in the CEO window for the top floor take. You're like, great, wow. And then you watch people triple Thatcher it and Nomad it, and oh my God, it's such a powerful broken window. This is great. And you watch people use a Ram drone to like block the sound. Oh my God, great. And then fast forward 4 seasons, another CEO window take. And as a viewer, you're like, ugh.
Do not even get me started on Bank Basement, opening up that single panel to turtle walk your way into play. I've been watching that for fucking 8 years at this point.
And it doesn't even have a good win rate. That frustrates me. It doesn't even have a good win rate. Like, how many times have you seen someone just fuck up the Tachanka fire and boom, they just lost the round? Yeah. But
how does the smoke? Smoke hits the desk instead of landing where they are, and they just truck right through it.
Yeah, so I think it'll be cool. Like, I actually thought about that. I think it'll work with Siege because, one, for map pool, I think, honestly, fuck the pros, let them figure it out, and it'll be fun to see what evolves on the map, and then it'll rotate out faster, and then when it comes back the next time, it'll be a different map because now 2 new operators have came out, new ban system has came out, all the bullshit has come out. But yeah, what do you think of that? Would you add that? Like, let's say I made you CEO of Ubisoft today.
Oh boy. Okay, so first thing I'm doing is creating a new Splinter Cell game, but that's besides the point. And then I'm also reducing microtransactions in most games. But again, this is obviously not Rainbow Six specific. I'm actually not, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I think that esports needs to find its identity.
Yeah.
Right. And for the last decade plus, most developers have tried to market esports as a genuine competition between the best of the best. Competitive integrity was hugely important.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely things started changing. And the one developer that completely changed it on its head was APAC. When they would have Fortnite championships, Fortnite was the biggest game in the world. Drake was playing it. I remember waking up early in Poland to watch Drake play Fortnite with Ninja. Like, it felt like everybody in esports was watching that moment. You could not escape Fortnite.
You could not.
You'd have these competitions. You'd have organizations fielding players. The amount of money going into it was insane. And everybody would play on the same patch under the same rules. And then 48 hours before an event, they would drop a mech that was horribly overpowered, or they'd drop a sword that just insta-killed people. And you had no time to practice with it. It wasn't balanced at all in any universe. Teams didn't know it was coming. And suddenly, everybody who spent the last couple weeks, maybe even longer, scrimming and prepping with strats in mind, have to blow them all up. And Epic's argument was, it's not just about competitive integrity, it's about marketing a product. And there's very few things that an audience likes more than something that is grotesquely broken. You're telling me that the average age of the Fortnite audience that time was probably in the teens, likely couldn't drive, likely couldn't get a job, young kids, and they're watching their favorite players get into a mech that is insta-gibbing everything in front of it? Yeah, of course. If I was a kid, I would be firing that up. Dude, I remember playing all the horribly broken fighting game characters when I was a child because all I cared about was winning and living some power fantasy. So esports needs to find an identity where we've tried genuine real esports as like it stands like compared to real sports. Yeah. But there's no money in it. People realize that it's hard to market it. And now a lot of TOs are, and a lot of developers and publishers are saying, well, esports can be competitive, but we also want to use it to market the game. It's not about the integrity, it's about advertising. So when I look at a game like Rainbow Six, I look at, okay, theme park is comp ready, we know that. Oregon is comp ready, we know that. I'd argue that Villa is still comp ready. That right there, 3 maps that you can easily cycle in and take 3 of them out. What was the most played map in stage 1? Cafe Dostoevsky, by a country mile. Take it out of the map pool. Most played map, get it out of there. Put in Oregon, put in Fortress, put in Canal, put Coastline back in. Yes, I understand that it is not the most competitive. And yes, I understand that teams will need to be on top of strategizing and stuff like that. And for some of the teams like Virtus Pro, who we mentioned earlier, who tend to have a very small map pool, it can be quite onerous for them to get up to speed. But I go back to Finca, I go back to the Krieg in Counter-Strike, and I say, pros get stuff wrong. You look at a map like Canal, you look at a map like Theme Park, maybe there are some things on there that can make them competitive, and we just need pros to try their hardest. Forced to try their hardest, because now the map is in the map pool. And the better question, though, and the one thing that I'll run counter to that is that what's to stop them from just getting insta-banned? Right? Like if you, let's say we do throw Canal and Coastline in the map pool, what's to say teams don't just insta-ban them the whole time? How do you get around that?
I think what usually happens, though, like psychology-wise, is like a lot of teams, you have like Virtus Pro will insta-ban them. Virtus Pro, if you look at their ban list, it's all the new maps, right? But no, I think most teams have a phase where they try to ego chow on the maps. They think, oh, we're great, and then it evens out. So I actually think human psychology takes over, and eventually you have to be good at those maps to stand out, especially if you're like having one of those under your belt. If you're in a region where like people don't like to try new things, is massive, especially once you get to playoffs, BO3s.
Yeah. That's a good point. We are doing much better on time than I thought. We are killing it right now. Like, no, as in like we have talked an awful lot. We have blown past what we had written down for this section, and we have barely even touched on it, which is good because my concern, even though I know that you can gab, I know that you can talk, and I know obviously I can. I was a little worried, if I will be frank, because it is your first official podcast, that you might do what a lot of people do, which is that you talk really fast and you say very little and you think you've just talked for like 3 minutes, but you've actually talked for 20 seconds. You've been doing excellently.
Hey, thanks.
But I would like to kind of drag us from that conversation. We can go back if we have more time at the end.
Yes.
But let's drag on over. We talked a lot about Denari. We talked about his kit. We talked about, is he good? Is he fun? Obviously, you've said that he's a little bit weak right now. I think Super was on a podcast as well recently where he said that Denari is quite weak and there's not a lot of reasons to bring him. I mean, we had this conversation with Aruni for a while. We had this conversation with Castle for a while too, where it's like, well, how do we make them meta? And it's like, I don't think you need to. I think it's good to have these pocket picks that excel on certain maps, that excel on certain sites, that fit a particular play style. They have their niche. They have their use. Maybe their pick rate is 8%. Not every operator needs to be, who's the most played defender right now? Smoke. Not everybody needs to be Smoke. Not everybody needs to be Mute. Not everybody needs to be a zombie. There are good utility operators that have specific uses, and I have no problem with Denari getting there. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think assess Denari for the next little while. If some tweaks need to be made, sure, but I'm okay with an operator launching and being kind of niche.
Yeah, and he's great. I think we appreciate the beauty of the dev team for the vision they had, which was a very beautiful vision, unique to Siege, and you can't find that in any other game. And if at any point he becomes utter dog shit, you just overtune the fuck out of him, right? Like, look at Grim. Grim was useless when he came out. Then, what did they do? One more. It can bounce. It goes wide. It lasts 2 million years, and now it's one of the most banned operators in the game, right? So it's like you just overtune the shit out of him, and you'll be right back in.
Yeah. And I mean, the devs have levers that they can pull, right? I mean, they obviously, sometimes I think they over nerf. I think right now, most of the community tends to agree, at least the pro community, that Solus was over nerfed. I think you needed maybe 1 or 2 tweaks. We had this same conversation with Ella way back in the day, right? Release Ella had a 50 bullet hose that had next to no recoil, that did decent damage. She was a 3-speed. She had impacts. Her Gishmots not only affected your view, but also your turning ability. You didn't turn as fast. And it's like, just take away like 1 or 2 of those. Give her a bit more recoil, make her a 2-speed, take away her impacts. That's really all you need to do. You don't need to hit her with the boomstick, and that's what they did with the Solus. They basically buried Solus. And she still sees some play, but she's very niche right now. And honestly, again, I'm okay with that, but I think they waited a bit too long and hit her a bit too hard. Let's talk about Blackbeard, though, because Blackbeard also got some nerfs, but it has not really affected his pick rate. Do you think what they were going for, which is to make him less frustrating to play against and less necessary, do you think they achieved that with the nerfs, or do you think they didn't go far enough?
I don't think they went far enough. If you watched, I believe it's, I forgot what game it was now. Skyscraper. It was a player, I think it was Savage against G2 with Blackbeard, and he like just clutched up just by like dashing 4 different people. Like I don't know. He killed like, he got like a 3 or 4K, and he was just killing them one by one by just running at them and dashing them. I think Blackbeard's still really powerful. I think reloading requires you to get in a better spot to reload anyway. So I mean, not that big of a change. I like what the idea like of like slowly nerfing and seeing what happens. But I don't think it needs to be gutted. Maybe I just think his ability shouldn't beat out a melee. I don't think his ability should be for knocking someone down at all. Actually, I think it should just be for breaching stuff. And then like let your melee be a melee, and then maybe if you want make the if he aims in his gun, make a wailing siren sound or something. I don't know.
I've often actually been on the other side of this argument with pros, because I actually like tactical shields in a tactical shooter. I have no problem with like Blitz and Fuse and Blackbeard and all that existing. I have no issues with that, obviously. I think Monty is a really cool operator, and I think that should kind of be like the idea where he has his niche, he has his use, he's very strong, but for the most part, he's a support operator. He's not like Blitz or a Blackbeard where you're drawing the line of fire and then you can return fire. A lot of times Monty is just there to be your focal point. And I mean, if you see somebody like Troy, for example, play him, he's not really fragging out on him the way that some other people are. And I think that's okay. I just kind of look at an operator like Blackbeard and I'm like, what are his weaknesses at this point? Because the frustration around an operator like Blackbeard is quite high. He has been, since his inception, a real bitch to fight against, right? Like first he had the infinite HP rifle shield that, could absorb 2 full shotgun mags, shells, I suppose, because I know that people who care about guns will be mad at me for that one. Sorry, I'm Canadian. I don't deal with guns up here.
Yeah.
But it's like I look at somebody like Blackbeard and I'm like, he kind of needs a rework. I really liked what they were doing with Osa, and people said like Osa is kind of what Blackbeard should have been, and I agree with that sentiment. I think Osa is a good shield op that isn't particularly oppressive to play against. And honestly, like Osa is one of my favorite ops to solo queue with, because you've got a good gun, you've got good utility, and if you know how to play the shield correctly, you can get a lot of value out of it. She's a great solo and selfish operator. I find the same with Warden. I think Capitao is kind of the same. I think Flores is the same on attack. But obviously you're not balancing for solo play. But like when you look at an operator like Blackbeard, do you think they need to go further then? Like surely if you think it didn't do enough, what is the fix? Is it just removing his ability to knock people down, or is there more? Obviously a siren on the gun's not really practical, but like if I make you CEO of Ubisoft, I make you CEO of Blackbeard, what are you doing to change him?
Okay, this is another hot take of mine in correspondence with the map pool thing. I would actually give all shields HP like the Reinhardt shields, and then maybe give them a second one if it's too little. Because here's my thing. Here's my thing with shields. Shields are fine when you're pushing behind a shield. That's a great part of the game. Shields are fine when you're taking space and like you're cementing yourself in that space. I think that's fine when you're rushing someone, right? I think the frustrating part of a shield is when they can sit in your face unpunished for a quintillion years. I think that's what's psychologically bad about shields, is the fact that a Blackbeard can sit there and look at you for half the round if he's far enough away to be safe. And like he's not moving, he's looking down, he's blocking his feet, he's doing the tech where you can't shoot any part of him. And he can just sit there and just be like this psychological presence. And then he waits until his teammates come from halfway across the map, and then he ADSs and kills you. One of my best examples for this is they've been using a lot of Montaigne, actually, in like pro play for clubhouse rafters, and they'll just sit him at the top of the stairs and just leave him there for the entire round until they want to do, yeah. And they like, it's like the rafters guy can't do anything, because if he turns around, Montaigne unshields ADSs. If he doesn't turn around, he just sits there. And then they could do anything. They could hit sight, they could do rafters take, they could do flip take. Either way, Montaigne's just there. So I actually think the biggest issue with shields is the fact that they can sit there and look at you. I think if you force them to pick and choose when to use the shield, which is actually what Osa does very, very well, actually. I think that's, like you said, Osa is probably the prime example of what a shield operator could be in Siege right now. I think that would actually be pretty balanced.
The only thing that the only thing I would say about that is I'm not opposed to some kind of like shield mechanic where after a set amount of time, maybe they take damage behind it. Because I mean, if you think about it, like if you were to actually shoot a ballistic shield that much, I mean, there's going to be some damage done to you over time.
Yes.
I mean, this game obviously is abandoned realism long ago. You've got Thatcher walking around with like mini nukes in his pocket. They're pulling, reinforcements out of their ass. Like I get it. This is not a realistic game, which is why when the realism crowd starts crowing, I ignore them. But like, I think Monty is a cool operator because he often needs other people around him. Blitz can kind of do stuff himself. Blackbeard can kind of do stuff himself. I mean, Fuse Shield sucks ass, but I mean, like, can kind of do stuff. I like Monty's existence and I like where he stands. The one thing about Monty, to your point, that really irks me is like when the diffuser goes down and then a Monty just stands in the corner or blocks a doorway. Now, obviously, they've added that shield break mechanic where now the more you hit, the more it moves the shield out of the way. But I mean, that's still kind of cheesy gameplay. It's still very frustrating. It still takes quite some time. When you plant a diffuser, you've got 45 seconds. By the time you've been able to knock that shield to a point where you can start to do damage to the Monty, you've already lost about 10, 15 seconds on the clock at that point. It's like, I don't know how you get around that. And then people will say the same thing they say with Clash, which is like, well, you have to tackle the problem before it gets there. All right, that's great, but I think that's a bit reductive. And it reminds me of the people who would say, well, Lion's so strong, just stand still. That is not a solution to this problem whatsoever. You can't just run a game like that, because the whole idea is that they don't want you to stand still. Like that's the way that a good team is going to use a Lion, just as when they're like, we'll just get rid of the Monty or the Clash ahead of time. A good team's not going to allow you to do that. I don't know what the solution is. I know that shields obviously bring about frustration, and they were completely useless 4 years ago. And now they are a requirement for the last 2 years. So I don't know what the middle ground is. I'm not a dev. I say this phrase on broadcast a lot, but smarter people involved with this game are ultimately going to need to figure this out. Not me, but I'm just here for the ride. I like that shields are in the game right now. I would like to see maybe a bit less of them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we agree on that one. And I like the Clash changes. I don't know if you've really commented on it much. I actually like the Clash rework quite a bit. I think it's really ingenious. Being able to put the shield down, have the shield still be able to slow people, and then be able to roam. I think that's very cool. That in a way kind of reminds me of Osa on defense.
Yeah. She's great. I think Pengu was right in the fact that it introduces human error. I think I thought she would, which I do still think she's broken, but she's not broken in a bad way. Like, she's broken in the fact that she could literally do everything. Like, I've seen multiple strats where she roams, goes outside the building, gets info as a moving cam outside the building, comes back, plays the mid layer, comes back, plays side, becomes a Melusi, gets off her shield play. But yeah, I think she's broken, but not in a bad way. I like it. And it's good because when I go to the cheater, I play Clash and I win.
This is the other kind of unspoken thing, and this is a topic that we will discuss, the deluge of cheating that is going on in the game at this present moment. Shields often give you the best way of handling cheaters, but I don't think operators should be banned or should be balanced around people
cheating,
who will one day cheat and get banned,
Yes.
Let's move on very quickly to some operator loadouts that have changed The two big ones, obviously, ACOG removal from defenders that don't use DMRs or slug shotguns. That means that if you use a DMR on defense, you're okay. If you use the TCSG or one of the slug shotguns, you're okay. But obviously, we've seen the ACOG removal, and there's been a whole host of defenders that have now been picked for their guns because you're no longer beholden to picking up an ACOG, which used to be the 1.5. This goes back to the whole why are we giving sights and optics to balance operators discussion that everybody has a million times. But the bigger one that I want to talk about right now is the Reaper MK2. This new small machine pistol that was added for Aurora, if memory serves correctly, has now been given to a whole host of other operators. Sledge has access to it. Pulse has access to it. And those two operators have seen some pretty substantial changes in the way that they're used. Pulse is not just back. He's kind of back in the meta for certain bomb sites, running the shotgun with the Reaper MK2 as the sidearm instead of having to use the FBI pistol. And Sledge is now back as well, running the shotgun that often is filled by Deimos's role when he runs the shotgun, because Deimos obviously has one of the strongest secondaries in the game, but now Sledge has access to the Reaper MK2. Before we get into operator changes, what is your opinion on the Reaper MK2?
It's good. It's not bad. Like you said, it pushed some people, like some teams to start doing stuff like that, but for the most part, it's good. I love it. I love the fact that there's that exists in the game where it's not as powerful as like an SMG-11 to give as a secondary, but it's like that mid-range between like a pistol and then a gun that now you can run a primary shotgun with. But yeah, it's good.
It's not just that they added it, they also buffed it. They got rid of like the initial kick recoil is now lower, and consistent firing recoil is now easier to manage. So we've not only has it been given to more operators, but it's also just a better weapon.
Yeah.
I like the kind of variation that it brings. You know, I remember a long time ago, Helby actually talked about how much he thinks that defender meta would change if every single operator got the bailiff. And I don't necessarily agree with him, because I think what happens then is that you tend to see the same operators get brought time and time again.
Yeah.
I mean, the dirty little secret about the SAS operators is not only are Mute and Smoke excellent utility operators, but because they have the SMG-11 as a secondary, they have to bring the shotguns. They are the demolition guys.
Yeah.
You know, you saw for a period of time, Maestro was kind of inhabiting that role with the AA-12, way back in the day. And obviously Aruni can fill that niche because of her passive where she punches holes and stuff. And then, of course, the DMR has great caliber-based destruction to boot. But it's like being able to add small things like giving the bailiff to operators. Obviously, Fenrir lost the bailiff. You had the super shorty that was on Legion that is now on Wamai, which is done to maybe bolster Wamai's pick rate, because after the ADSs got changed to catch everything, just like magnets do, Wamai disappeared and everybody started running Jaeger. So now giving the super shorty to Wamai, whereas Jaeger doesn't have that soft destruction, has actually bumped up Wamai's pick rate. I like things like this. I think adding a new secondary to the game, it's not just exciting from a gun perspective, because obviously people like being able to use new guns, but it also brings greater flexibility to the lineup that you have either on attack or defense.
Yeah, the ops were right with balancing with shit like this. Like everyone was saying, "Oh, that's all the gadgets." Like I was saying, it was the gadgets like a couple of years ago. They were right. They were completely right. The sights, absolutely. I want to pivot to that real quick, because the sights they were completely right on. Because I loaded into a game. And like usually on hookah, on coastline, I pick Doc on defense because I can fight the guys on ruins. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm not gonna pick Doc anymore. I'm gonna pick someone for their util, like the game intends me to. Oh my god, the devs were right. Now I actually see my friends will pick Aruni just for the ACOG now in rank. Like literally, she is now the ACOG up in rank for a high level rank player. So no, they were completely right. The sights, the secondaries, the shotguns abilities. All that is all great balancing tools. As much as like now we're gonna hate to admit it, that's the reason why these ops are gonna be picked. Now, if you're Warden and your abilities as powerful as Warden, you're gonna get picked regardless. Unless actually no, not on ranked. Ranked definitely is for the scopes. But yeah.
I think it depends on the level of ranked, because Warden, I play around plat.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't play as much these days because I've got other hobbies, and obviously I work, like we do the casting, and when we're doing that, like I don't stream as frequently, but like when I do play, I play around plat level and like traditional plat elo. I'm not talking like the new rank 2.0 where everybody is a champion. I'm talking like genuinely like champ level skill. So like towards the higher end, like, you know, there's about 10, 15, 20% of the player base above me. So it's like I'm still like closer to the middle than I am maybe to the top. The amount of times that a warden is an excellent pick just because the people playing against you are going to bring a ton of flashbangs, a ton of smokes. He's a selfish op. And again, these selfish ops are excellent for solo queue. At the highest level, maybe warden is not being played because his loadout isn't sexy enough. But if you inhabit that role around plat, where plat to me is like this really messy intersection of either incredible mechanical skill but zero game sense, or incredible game sense and you weren't born with wrists. Like that's kind of like what plat is, right? You're very rarely will see somebody in plat who's like, wow, they've got great aim and they've got a brain, because usually they climb out of plat pretty quickly. Yeah. So it's like when you bring somebody like Warden, you've got a lot of guys and you've got a lot of players at that level that are going to want to play utility. And Warden's a great operator for that. I touched on some of the attackers. Nice. I think Os is great. I think Flores is great for it. I think Capitao is great for it. I think these are really good, selfish, middle of the road, middle of the pack elo operators that can find you a ton of value that have great loadouts. I mean, obviously Grim is one of those too, but Grim does tend to get banned in a lot of solo queues. So I think it just depends on where you're playing. And again, this does loop back to our discussion where if you're a dev, how do you balance? Because if you have half of the community crying that Warden sucks, but then like the middle of the community is like, yeah, he's fine. But the bad players are like, he doesn't do anything. And the good players are like, he's slow and has a shitty loadout. What do you do with that data as a dev? Yeah. Where do you push him, you know? So it is cool to see that they're tweaking this. Nothing has really changed with the meta that I've noted from stage one. The two things that surprise me the most are, number one, map picks, but number two, Gridlock's pick rate has soared. What do you think is the reason for that?
ADSs became meta again, and then you have an operator that is not only the greatest flank watcher ever, but also 4 burn and 2 nades. So, yeah. Because you remember... Yeah, Gridlock used to not burn nades. Yeah. I mean, sorry, ADS used to not burn Gridlocks or Capitals. Yeah. But now they burn both. And now you can burn it with that and then use a nade to break out the spot. Yeah. I
don't know if this is true with Gridlock. I know that it was of Ying. Ying, because when you throw the Candela, it erupts into a bunch of mini Candelas. Each of those little explosions from the Candela used to trigger an ADS. So if you threw a Candela and the initial one survived, and then it shot out the other Candelas, it would burn those ADSs. I don't know if track stingers actually work the same way. I'd have to check that. Where it's like, you know, you throw the track stinger and then it starts splitting apart. I don't know if the initial one, if it doesn't get caught.
The initial one gets caught.
But if it doesn't, do the secondary ones that pop out, do those trigger ADSs? Because if so, then she's even better at chewing through Jaeger's utility. But I'd have to check that because I don't play much Gridlock. Also, the F90, we're talking about good guns that go under the radar.
Oh, that's
F90 is one of the best guns in the game at the moment. That thing is nasty. I'm amazed it hasn't been hit with the Nerf stick. And I think it's kind of the same with the AK. The AK was so good, but it was attached to just Fuse at the time, so nobody really played it. It went on Ace, and everybody was like, oh my God, this gun's too good. We have to nerf it. I fear that they're going to give the F90 to an operator who might be a little bit better and then realize how good it is and nerf it. And then we will lose one of my favorite guns in the game.
No, it's great. Yeah. It can do that, but with the track singers, but there's not good spots to do that with. So
yeah. I do like your point that you made earlier about the other application of track stingers, which is the audio component. It's same with Ram's boogie drones. Yeah. Gridlock's track stingers and Ram's boogie drones are two of the loudest gadgets in the game. It's not just about flank watch and destruction. It's also about covering your advance. I remember a strat once where a team jumped Skylight on Cafe. They threw 4 smokes down and then I think this is back when she had 3 track stingers. Yeah. They threw track stingers down and they all jumped through the Skylight. And because of the smoke and because of the sound, the defenders didn't know anything about it and they got overrun. And I feel like in a lot of cases for a game that lives and dies off of sound as much as Siege does, there aren't as many audio considerations for teams as you'd think. I don't know if you agree with that standpoint, but are there more options for us to see operators making a ton of noise to conceal their advances?
Oh yeah, dude, the game should release like a sound operator. Honestly, that'd be sick. That'd be amazing. But yeah, no, you're right. I actually didn't think of that before too. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Yeah, no, Gridlock is loud. And like again, like gridlock is powerful. They added another one. Like that's what I love about Siege is that you could always make it all busted by just adding another one of their gadgets or another two of their gadgets. Goyo, same
Yeah.
thing. Castle, same thing. Ying, same thing. Grim, same thing.
What was I going to say? I am a little amazed that they have never released an operator that has like decoy grenades. Like it kind of confuses me that, like, I mean, look at an operator like Yoru, or well, I guess agent, like Yoru in Valorant, right? You create a clone of yourself that like runs, and then people get confused by it. I'm actually amazed that they haven't done things to kind of like Mirage as well from Apex Legends does this very well, like bamboozle the defenders. Like you don't like, we have holograms. Obviously we have Yana who does it, but Yana's more for intel. Yana's not designed to confuse you. Like I am a little amazed that they haven't done like a decoy grenade or a decoy operator or anything along those lines that distracts you or, you know, does anything with sound, etc. You know, obviously like Zofia can get rid of your sound when she hits you with her lifeline. Obviously like Fenrir disorients you as an attacker when you jump into it. But I think that there's opportunity there for them to release either a secondary decoy grenade that can be used as like just for all operators or an actual operator that it's based around as well.
You might have just brought up how they bring back Yana. If you can like a flourish drone, put Yana down, make that motherfucker run by itself. That could be that could be how they bring back Yana to the meta, because she went from like best thing in the world to like garbage. Like she's gone, but no one picks her. Dude, the one time I saw her get picked, random off note before I like make us go on a complete derail. The one time I saw her get picked was so that her white headgear would blend in with the wall of Bank Marble Skylight. NIP versus G2. NIP repelled the guy down Marble Skylight, and because the sunlight hits that wall so hard, he was on Yana. And that was it. That was it. The white headgear.
Shaiko picks her from time to time because of the weaponry, but I mean, like, I remember having a private conversation with some casters at one point where, like, I can't remember if it was BDS or Falcons. I can't remember what team Shaiko was on at this time. But Shaiko all of a sudden started playing Yana when Yana's pick rate was like below the basement. And I just remember one of the casters or one of the analysts being like, yeah, they're losing this game. Shaiko's pissed. He's just comfort picking Yana. This game is over. And sure enough, they ended up losing. We talked about this. We talked about our next subject a little bit earlier, which is just like the kind of the general state of the game. And a lot of people are pointing fingers at CJX getting a bit of a slower rollout than people hoped. And more importantly, Operation High Stakes not really delivering a lot of content. And I mean, there's always conversations about player numbers, and I take no stock in it because Steam charts are not a proper indicator of the health of a game. The overwhelming majority of people who play this game play it on console, not to mention the fact that Uplay numbers tend to blow Steam numbers out of the water. So if we've got like 100K playing on Steam, that's actually really, really, really good.
Yeah.
Whereas like, people will look at it and be like, oh my God, there's like 60,000 playing right now. I'm like, man, 60,000 people playing a video game is excellent, especially for a game that's over 10 years old at this point. But it is hard to ignore the general community sentiment, which is CJX has not delivered yet. You mentioned that you feel like the game is kind of sliding a bit in relevancy. Jinxie, who is the kind of canary in a coal mine, has gone from playing a ton of Rainbow Six to now almost exclusively playing like Clash of Clans, Clash Royale. I don't know the difference between the games, but I mean, he's getting that bag, so like good for him. But I mean, do you think this is just a temporary thing? Do you think that it's just like they're still working on CJX, they're still fine-tuning things, we will start getting more content later, we're going to be okay? Are you a little concerned now that this is the second, I guess, operation since CJX launched, and this one's not being met with the same positive reception? What's your gut check on the state of the game right now?
Yeah, for me, my biggest thing is actually I have a flip of priorities. Whereas like I know a lot of people complain about the amount of content, and that might be it. That might be why. But for me, it's actually, I think the playability of the game is number one. Is number one in priority. And I think everything else comes after. When you think of a game like CS that's the same, that is just still popular, that anytime they change anything, everyone cries. If you think of like Valorant when it came out, if you think of like League, I don't know, not League, League's too old, but Valorant, right? Let's take Valorant. Valorant, when it came out, was a dog shit game. Like, it was bad. It's a bad game. But you know why people play it? Because the hit reg is amazing. Because there were no cheaters. Like, Vanguard was so advanced that everyone played it. Same with CS. It was playable. Think about your fondest memories of Siege is when you would go till 3 a.m. every single night with your boys because it was playable.
Right.
I just deafened on accident. So for me, it's like actually the number one thing is the playability of the game. I actually could not care less. Well, I could care less, actually. I think that's the second most important thing is content variability. But I think, like, first things first, I think the game has just been slowly progressing towards less and less playable. Less nights where you can get on a 5-stack, sweat your ass off, and go all the way till 3 a.m. without a thought of work the next day passing your mind, right? Now it's like you'll get on, play 2, cancel twice, DDoS the server twice, cheater 2 times, or some unspeakable bug happens to you and you're just done. You know, so for me, that's it. Like, if you ever played GTA Online, you know, like that meme, like, I don't know if anyone's played GTA without loading screens would be the greatest game of all time. I think it's like that. It's like the loading screen equivalent of things being in Siege, whether it's bugs, whether it's cheaters, whether it's the overall enjoyability of the game. I think it's something like that, where it's like Siege without the equivalent of GTA loading screens would be the greatest game of all time. Right?
I want to push back on this a little bit here because obviously I actually haven't played the new season yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna say, how old are you right now?
I'm 23.
You're also in school. Do you think that it's the game changing, or do you think a lot of it is you and the audience changing? Because I will tell you, everything you just said is stuff that my friends said in 2008, in 2009. You remember when Grim Sky came out, when Maverick and Clash got put into the game?
Yeah.
All my friends quit playing around then, and most of them just never came back. And like, if it wasn't for COVID forcing us inside, I don't know if I ever would have regained my passion for playing Siege the way that I had it back in 2017, 2018, when I first started playing the game. I'm 35. I'm over a decade older than you. Long gone are my days of staying up gaming till 3 a.m. with the boys. You know, I've had my I obviously, you probably very, very rarely do I think you experience this. But I had my days of like going over to a buddy's house to play on the N64, ordering a pizza, like getting a couple like bottles of Coca-Cola, and then just staying up till 5 a.m. playing video games. I can't do that anymore, right? And like most of my friends can't either. So I don't want to say you're wrong, because I think the sentiment among the people at the top for the first time in a lot of seasons is, I'm not really excited to play this current operation. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if it's you looking at it through the lens of where you are in life right now versus where you were 4 years ago. Because like I said, most of my friends that I used to stay up till 2, 3 in the morning in a 5-stack playing this game have stopped playing like 5 years ago. They've all moved on. Now I struggle to find stacks when I play. I remember the days of a new operation would come out and King George would have his stack, Macy would have his stack, Bolo would have his stack, Braction would have his, Godly would have his. There'd be like teams stacking together. People would be like streaming it. And it was great. But then it's like all of those people either got too old, or they moved on, or their relevancy waned, or in Bolo's case, they had a kid. In Macy's case, he started playing during the day. In George's case, he had like 19 kids and now he's 400 years old. Like, it's just, I think we kind of grow up. And I do wonder how much of it is us projecting our current life, like our current point in time in our life onto the game versus the actual content. I will say though, to defend your point, there is a strikingly small amount of content with Operation High Stakes. There is very little. Like, I remember when I watched the reveal, it was like, what? It was like 16 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, it was
and
like 18 minutes,
and then I watched, I read the webpage and I was like, that's it? Like, that's all there is? Like, I assume there's more coming that will be announced at SI when the year rolls over in February, like always. But are you worried? Like, are you worried about the health of the game? Like, is that something that, like, do you wrestle with that? Or is it something that you think it'll be fixed once they're able to get most of the stuff behind the scenes fixed with CJAX?
For the first time, I am worried. I want to respond to what you said earlier first, though.
Go ahead.
You could be completely right. Like, I fully understand that. The thing is, I have one indicator that most people don't, which is the amount of pro stacks playing. Because remember,
True.
Sean Caping Major, BDS was top 1 through 5 champ, right?
Yeah.
SSG are fiends every single season. Wildcard are usually fiends every single season. The TSM stack would play, you know, a lot of teams with team stack ranked. Like, there was a stretch of time where NJR and Spears, they were like butt buddies, and they were number 1 and 2 champ for like 5 seasons in a row. My indicator is when they stop playing. You remember Modiga and Yeti?
Yeah,
Do you remember those stacks?
Mo
Yeah.
played this game more than like any human should ever play this game, admittedly.
Yeah, like those type of pro stacks. So I have that
Yeah.
indicator. And for me, the reason I you could be fully right. It could be life. It could be 90% life. But the 10% for me tells me like, oh, the pro stacks aren't playing. Like Nick's not, NJR's not playing, which is crazy because he's always played, you know? Like he has never not played. But now this is the first time that he has not played. Spirits is not playing, you know, like BDS is not playing. All the top 5 champs nowadays are either cheaters or like just a pure ranked stack. That's it. They never have aspirations of going pro. They're not up and coming CL players. They're just pure ranked. And that for me is what hurts a little bit. That's like my one indicator, but you could be fully right. Now, am I scared for the game for the first time? Yes, because all the times before, I'm like, you guys say this bullshit every single time. This time feels like Ubisoft, the company, not the developers, have given up. And I want to, this might be, I don't know if this is a touchy area to speak on, but like I've spoken to the devs now that I met them. And now I've realized like, basically now that I'm able to empathize with the devs, I realize that people putting the guns at the devs, you know, is a little bit misguided because like the anti-cheat thing, for instance, they have been coming up with all these crazy ideas basically to circumvent their contract with BattlEye. How can we catch cheaters without being reliant on BattlEye, right? And then the team is tiny. The team is monumental. Like when I heard the number, I forgot what it was, but it was definitely under 100, and it was definitely way too small for a game with this many cheaters. It's tiny. And same with the devs. Like the devs have so much passion, and I like the sparkle in their eyes, and they come up to me and they're like, "Oh, dude, I watch your content. It's so great. It's some of the most genius shit I've ever heard." And they're listening, like more and more. They're listening to the community so much more. Like you see it, and it's like, dude, it's just. I think it's the parent company not pumping enough money. I think they're unwilling to take risks. Why, you know, we were at one point classified as a tier 1 esport. At one point, I forgot which years it was.
It was around SI 2020. I will say we were only up there for like 3 months, but I mean, we were still there.
We were there.
We were there.
But we were at tier 1 esport. Yeah.
And it doesn't get treated like that, right? Like, I mean, when you see things, and a big point of frustration I have is like, I love the devs as well. And I talk to the devs quite frequently. And I think people give them way too much guff when a lot of decisions get made by people in suits well above them who don't know anything about the game. Ubisoft as a company, A, doesn't have the greatest reputation right now, and B, they don't really have a lot of successful games. Siege is one of the few games that is still making money and is earning Ubisoft not just profits, but a positive reputation. You know, and I fear that this move to Siege X has accelerated them trying to squeeze blood from a stone. But when I heard that we were going free to play, the very first thing I said was, do you just want your game to be overrun by cheaters? Because that's what's going to happen. It was already like a $5 barrier to entry if you wanted to play this game, right? You can go online, you can buy a Siege account for $2 to $5 before it was free to play. Yeah. But I heard when it was free to play, I'm like, the cheating situation in Siege is already worse than almost any game I play. Yeah. Like, I very rarely encounter it in Valorant. You almost never encounter it in League. You almost never encounter it in Overwatch. It's really bad in Counter-Strike unless you're playing like at a trusted level or you're playing in one of the...
Face it, yeah.
Yeah. But like, you know, Apex obviously is dealing with it too. Obviously, the more complex games, it's harder to cheat it. Like a game for Rocket League, for example, pretty challenging for you to cheat in Rocket League. Siege, for whatever reason, there are lots of levers that cheaters can pull. And I am telling, and I always tell people that when pros get frustrated about the state of the game, that most cheaters tend to play at the highest ranks because if they cheat and they're winning nonstop, obviously they're going to get to champ, right? If you encounter a cheater down in like silver or gold, you're probably only going to see them for one game because they're just going to be climbing so fast. You're not going to see them again. So to me, the bellwether there is the r/Rainbow Six Pro Leagues, or the r/Rainbow Six subreddit, not the Pro League subreddit, the regular subreddit, because that's where all the casuals are. Even then, that still makes up a tiny portion of the player base. But when those guys are complaining about cheating, you know, at this point, it's trickled down from the top level and just regular people are dealing with it. If champs are dealing with cheaters, that's 1% of the player base that is suffering. Usually the other, let's say charitably 90% of the player base, because let's say it's only the top percent that's being affected, the top 10%, 90% of the player base isn't dealing with cheaters. Who cares, right? And I've seen threads on that Rainbow Six subreddit where it's like, I don't know why everybody's complaining about cheaters. I never see them. Well, that's because you're in silver. That's because you're in gold. That's because you're in plat. You're very rarely coming across them. But if people that are just regular players are starting to encounter cheaters, that's when we're in trouble. Yeah. And I will say, I don't have a finger on the pulse strong enough to say if that's happening or not. I have seen a couple threads on the subreddit about it. Pros having to deal with it on stream is obviously a very bad look, because if you let's say you want to get into Rainbow Six. Oh, you go online, Bolo's playing. Oh, look, you go online, Spoit's playing. Yeah. Every game it's a cheater. Are you going to be inclined to buy the game? No, of course not. You're not going to buy it. You're going to be like, wow, this game is shit. It's constantly dealing with cheating. So that is a concern for me. And I mean, I feel like from all the conversations I have with people at the top, cheating is the worst. It feels like it's the worst it's ever been. I don't know if the data backs that up, but I don't know how Ubisoft deals with it. I don't know how you fix it. And it seems to me like with all things, cheating is a never-ending fight, but it does impact Siege way harder than most other games. And if it's not tackled long-term, it will eventually erode and kill a game. Yes. So I have concerns just like you do. I don't think it's the end of times, but I think they need to get a swift handle on it over the next like 6 months to a year, or they're just going to continue to hemorrhage players at the top.
Yeah. And I fully agree. And I think like one of the biggest heartbreaks I've had is there was a period of time where I was doing like what I was doing at my peak was only a couple months ago, actually. So I shouldn't say like I'm already decrepit or anything, but I had basically already scooped in all the viewers from Jinxie that would have watched esports. They're already here, right? They're already on my channel. My next goal was, okay, how do I get people that don't like, I've already also got the people that used to watch, you know, Reaper _EN, if you remember that guy. Also, I loved Reaper's on my channel, yes. Like, I already scooped everyone from those two pools, people that already play the game. My next goal was, how do I get people who don't play the game interested in Siege? So I actually went on a little thing where I actually co-streamed CS for a bit. And I actually got a really successful 200,000 view video off that, like a Pro R6 coach reacts to CS for the first time. And after that video went successful, people will come to my R6 streams like, hey, I come from CS and you got me into this game. And this is when CHX first came out, and it broke my heart because I literally knew I was sending them into Cheater Fest. Because I play Quick Play. I play Quick Play with my editor for fun, just to pass time. And I know how much free-to-play cheaters are there. And it just broke because I did all this work to bring in like maybe like 1,000 CS players into trying Siege. And I know like 80% of them are going to run into a cheater within their first 5 games. You know, and they're just going to get the same experience they get on CS, and they're going to get discouraged. And it broke my heart. And like you said, like it does also disproportionately affect people at the highest level, but it also still trickles down. Like that effect trickles down. Mm-hmm. Why? Because what is Spoit's entire brand built off of? I hit #1 champ. If you don't remember, Spoit's entire YouTube brand was the fact that he was, when champ first came out, he hit #1 champ before anyone else did, right? And a lot of people in League, like, this guy's a #1 challenger. This guy's a #1 Radiant and Valorant. What does he do differently? And there's like a bunch of content off that. And now I can bet $1 million every season, halfway through the season, almost consistently, that guy's a blatant cheater, right? And there goes that whole status quo. There goes that whole thing. Let's watch the #1 champ and see what he does differently to see how good he is at this X. And, oh, could he go pro? You know, that whole conversation is all out the window because that guy's just blatantly cheating. So that's why it matters. Like you said, that's why it matters. Otherwise, eventually it'll corrode a game. TF2, a 6th of its player base with cheaters, they banned those accounts, and the game literally doubled in player base over the next week. And then the cheaters came back, and then it died again. Yeah. But, like, people will play if the game is playable, you know. So
I don't know, other than hunting down the cheat manufacturers, which is starting to happen, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't really know how you get around it, because cheating used to be small peanuts. It is now a multi-billion-dollar business.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how many just random people will be like, yeah, I'll spend $20 on cheats, sure. It's mind-blowing. And obviously it's an epidemic and something that needs to be addressed. It is well above our pay grade. And unfortunately, for the sake of timing, we have to move on to what will likely be our very last topic today, which is how we're going to end every single show, which is a recap of the league. So if you were not able to watch the previous week of professional Rainbow Six Esports, we will cover as much of it as we can. And we have about 35-ish minutes to go over
what I thought it took up way more. Okay.
Well,
sorry about that.
You're killing it. This is great on timing. And again, this is kind of like a test run, right? We're still using the old branding from 6on6. Yes, for those that are watching, you're going to recognize the colors. You're going to recognize the logo. You're going to recognize pretty much everything except Troy is gone. And obviously we're on a podcast network now. Next week, ideally, the rebrand will be finished. So we're going to it's not going to be a complete new identity. It's just going to be some things are going to be tweaked. We're going to get a little bit of a refresher, a new coat of paint, and that's it, right? Fett is going to look exactly the same, but hopefully we'll have a slightly better microphone for him this next time. That's really the only difference. We're sending him to the shop. We can rebuild him. It's just going to probably cost about $300. Let's start with APAC. So what we're going to do is we'll go with basically when our podcast goes live, which as far as I'm aware is going to be like Wednesdays, but again, we're still in the process of figuring out the best day for it. What we're going to do is that we are going to be recording very shortly after EML finishes their second play day. Now, of course, there is a rolling schedule, so there will be super weeks. Not everything is going to be very neat. We're going to try to cover things where we can. Let's start with our good friends over in Australia, Oceania, which is all Australian teams at the present point in time. There is not a lot to talk about because it tends to be the smallest of the 3 APAC regions. And historically, it is the least competitive, though Fnatic obviously had a great run when they had that old team way back when. Then obviously you had Bliss, you had Chiefs, you had Order, you had all these different teams. But most of the success from APAC has come from either Korea or Japan or Southeast Asia. Right now, the team that is sitting at the very top of Oceania is Enterprise Esports. Chiefs is in second place. Gaming Gladiators was the big squad that most people knew from APAC. And unfortunately, they disbanded, so the spot was completely removed. There are only 7 teams that are going to be playing. If you don't really follow Australia, I'm going to speed through this because you don't really have a ton to add for Australia, so don't worry. I'm not going to have you chime in on this. Basically, Enterprise Esports, for people that don't know, has Official Guy on it. That's the main name that most people are going to know. They finished first in Challenger Series. That's why they are up here. The affiliate team from the region is Chiefs Esports Club. People know them. They've been around forever. Oda, Quiz, Brendo, Jigsaw, Sage. That's the squad that most people know. They're in second place right now. They've got a couple matches actually coming up, I think, really soon. I think their next match is in like a couple hours. 7 hours. It'll be Dream Warriors actually playing against that Enterprise Esports team. So their matches will have ideally finished by the time this show goes live. So that'll be the third play day. Nothing really to note over in Australia. They have been the one region of the 3 in APAC that has not seen an import team. Obviously, there were some serious waves caused by both Elevate and D+ getting rid of their rosters and picking up entire Brazilian rosters. So let's shift our sights over to another APAC region, which is APAC North. That consists of predominantly Korean and Japanese teams. All of the teams are Japanese and Korean except for D+, which has a Brazilian roster of Falls, Levy, Mighty, Nears, and Bullet One. You're going to recognize those names from teams like NIP, from MIBR, from Team Liquid. D+ Kia are not in first place right now. They're 1 win, 1 loss. The team at the very top is Fear X. People that don't know that Fear X has gone through multiple iterations: Coded, Woogieman, Rin, Mephi, and Good Boy. The team that's in second place is Kag Osaka, who obviously had a huge spotlight put on them because of the Black Ray situation where he was
innocent. Well, no,
he
ended
ended
up
up being found innocent. Yeah, which is crazy because it's like all of a sudden I'm like, I see news right as I'm about to go to bed that he's been arrested for like kidnapping. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Anyway,
I fist bumped that guy.
He's such a nice guy. I've talked to him a whole bunch. Of course, like monsters can easily conceal themselves. You never really know. But Kaigo Saka right now is in second place. I don't know what's going to happen with Black Ray. He was found innocent. I don't know the way that the Japanese legal system works. I don't know if that means he might still be guilty. They just couldn't find him guilty. I don't know if that means he's fully innocent. I have no idea. And frankly, I don't really want to go on record on a podcast saying one thing or the other. All I'm going to say is that if he is innocent, I hope we do see him compete again because he's a talented player. If he's not innocent, then obviously, hopefully no team picks him up. While we're here, there's nothing really to point out other than PSG Talon is in dead last place, which is a little shocking. I want your thoughts on these import teams in APAC before we go deeper into the standings. Brazil moving to both APAC North and just the regular Asia region. Good, bad? You think it's bad for the scene? You think it's good for the players? What do you think?
I think it's a bad move in general. I honest to God, think that there is enough homegrown talent in every region because Siege is a little bitty, little cute little game, and each region has their own unique advantages, and you have to play those advantages to win. Like when Beast Coast won, it was a homegrown roster versus Mr. Worldwide M80 in the grand finals for North America. You remember that? Yeah, and homegrown talent won. Canada and the US won. And then we took the philosophy going into the major, which I think gave us a big advantage, is we're not going to do what other teams do and study Brazil to see what they do to catch up. We're going to play what NA is good at. And NA is good at shields. And NA is good at planting. Fuck this kill siege, aggro siege bullshit meta. Let's plant the bomb, And we won. So I think that, there's enough homegrown talent for APAC teams to make miracle runs. Is the competition good enough to practice to become good enough to be world champions? Probably not, but you can maximize a boot camp off that. I think it brings a smile to my face when Los, like when they came to NA, goes terribly wrong. And when Elevate lost to CAG in Reload, it brings a smile to my face. Like, fuck yeah. Get those... I was gonna say colonizers, but maybe that's get those invaders out of here, right? I don't know. A little too sensitive.
They're trying to colonize Siege. Maybe I think invaders is great. Interlopers is good. I think all of those are
yes
wonderful ways to describe it.
But at the same time, I think Elevate it seems to be working for them right now. A little sadly working for them. But I hope to see the domestic teams overtake them. That's what I'm saying. I'm rooting for the domestic teams to overtake them. Because in my head, from what Los happened, they were like, oh, we'll put Brazil in NA and they'll just tear through everyone. But it's a different style. It's a completely different game. And now you're thrust in a bunch of teams that don't play what you expect them to play. And you have to adapt to that. And that's why typically you see the number one team coming from regional leagues, not necessarily being the best team in that region internationally. Because once again, like if you beat everyone at that style, does that mean you beat other regions at their style? So it's like, I don't think it's necessarily a good or bad thing. I just root for the non-import teams to win.
I think there's two things that I think I'd like to comment on. Number one, the biggest issue that APAC has always had is its geography. It's quite far removed. It's very hard to scrim. Obviously, there's language issues. The talent base isn't quite as deep. It's very, even for like Australian teams to scrim Japanese teams, they're playing on like 200 ping, right? Like it's crazy. So it's not really possible for them to do that. And every APAC team says that they get a lot of growth from attending live events. Obviously, there are fewer APAC spots now and there are fewer events. So APAC doesn't have the same ability to grow. The only plus that I see of an import team, other than the fact that they are bringing new attention to a region, is that those players are going to make everybody play a little better. Yeah. Having a champion like Bullet One competing against teams like that have never won anything, period. Like I think that's great. It sucks that it comes at the expense of a team and a player that was born in that region. If you're Korean or you're Japanese and you're looking at the fact that you are the 52nd best player in the region, but you're not getting picked up because 5 of those spots have gone to Brazilians or North Americans or Europeans, obviously that's bad. The other thing I want to say is that at least in APAC North, every single game has been really competitive. All of these teams could easily move up and down the standings. It's going to be a fascinating region to watch. You talked about Elevate, which is the other import team. They're over in Asia, which is the third and final APAC sub-region. They are in first place, and they are demolishing everybody in Asia. They have lost 6 rounds in 3 games. So they are averaging a 7-2 victory in all 3 of their matches so far. Now, there are not bad teams in this region, right? Like you've got Fury, who's gone to live events before. You've got Weibo Gaming, who have gone.
Reaps.
What?
Let's go Reaps.
Yeah, you've got they've been also they've been at live events. You've got some of the core of Daystar. They've been at live events. You've got Mr. Punchman or Mr. Punch over on Soul's Hard Esport, who's also competed at live events. So a lot of these teams are Thai. So they come from all over. You've got a lot of Hong Kong players. You've got some Taiwanese teams. You've got some Thai teams. You've got some Indonesian teams. Obviously, Reaps is from China. Turdsta is technically playing from New Zealand. So it's a cool region. Elevate obviously 3-0. They're running away with it. Daystar in second place. Daystar qualified through the Challenger Series, so good to see them in second. But beyond that, I mean, it's pretty lopsided. The bad teams in Asia are pretty bad. The good teams in Asia are pretty good. And I hate to say it, but the roster of Elevate is Ion, Psycho, Stemp, Raps, and Resets. You've got a world champion on that team. Yeah, Psycho's best days are very obviously behind him, but
yeah,
I don't see a reason why Elevate won't continue to at least do well.
They built the team well. Like props to them, because all the other import projects have been failures. Especially, let's talk about Mexico for like 2 seconds. They tried to put so many NA players in Mexico, and they've all been outclassed. I'm very happily to say that they've all been outclassed by like a homegrown team like Cruelty or 6K, which makes me really happy to say that. But yeah.
I remember when the first Mexican team came over, which was at Copenhagen, when they had mostly imports, all of the teams hated them, and all of the teams wanted them to lose because they were seen as intruders, basically. Let's turn our sights to Europe, as they just finished their second play day, the Europe MENA League. And by the way, your opinion that you hold on teams coming over and picking up import rosters, I actually hold the same view on a team like Falcons. I understand why when you have unlimited money, as Falcons the org does, you're going to want to pick up the best team humanly possible, irrespective of where they're from. But I loved that Falcons repped Saudi players. I liked that. I liked that we got to see players from the Middle East actually competing at events. If we want a global league, we can't just have Brazilian or European teams all across the globe competing. No, the whole idea is that the teams from Asia have Asian players on it. The teams from Australia have Australian players on it. The teams from the Middle East have Middle Eastern players on it. Like, I like that. I'm a bit bummed, obviously, that Falcons picked up the old BDS roster. I think it's hilarious that they got shit stomped at EWC after being the EWC team.
Yeah.
For EML, I don't know if there's anything you want to touch on, but the big thing that I want to mention here, the team that won EWC is in dead last.
Yeah.
In EML. What is going on with Team Secret? They've only been able to win 3 rounds in their 2 matches. What the hell is going on?
I think it's the toughest thing to stay on top, because I also witnessed my team fail to qualify for EWC after we won Manchester. And I think typically speaking, you do see the teams that win the event and then right after that they fall off really hard. Why is that? Because every team now looks, when you become the shining pillar of light at the top of the world, you now are the prime example of how to play Siege. Everyone has studied you. Everyone and their moms has studied you. Everyone has figured out how to counter you, how you play, and they try to emulate you. You are the default. So the mindset of let's do what we've been doing as work no longer works. And you have to coin flip and then figure out something new and gamble to go even further than you've gone before. And that's so hard to do. It's so hard to do. And that's why teams like G2 when they were a dynasty and W7M, old W7M, now Furia, when they were a dynasty, were so impressive for. The fact that they can win back to back to back and come back and win again and come back and win again, it's just insane, right? So I think that's what it is. It's you become the top of Siege. Everyone studies you. Everyone knows exactly how you play. Savage was known for flipping takes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, all during EWC. Now he looks like a clown doing it because the enemy team is just ready. You had this control. You flipped the take around. I saw them do it a million times, and they just get completely curb stomped because every team is ready for it now, right? So I think that's what it is. I think Secret will Twister, and I have faith and good faith in Twister to do so. It's just you have to push yourself beyond. You have to remember that, like, okay, what I did to win is now everyone else's default. To them, that is now textbook Siege. and now I have to push further beyond to find something new.
It's what makes teams like that old Penta G2 roster and then Furia most recently on that W7M now Furia team. It's what makes them so much more impressive. Because it's like everybody is studying your VODs. Everybody is trying to beat you. Everybody's trying to emulate you. And yet you continue to be at the top. I remember after G2 and Penta went through that entire run, most people said, we're not going to see another team like that emerge. The game is just too competitive. And then obviously W7M said, you know, hold my beer. And here they are. But I also have to ask the question to you. When you look at an event like Reload that had Cyclops finish second.
Yeah.
And you had a team like Team Secret that has never really flexed their muscles at international events, winning EWC. There has long been a belief that is sometimes spoken in private by teams that most of these teams don't actually give a shit about these non-circuit events. Reload was to I talked to players. I will keep their names out of this podcast. But I've talked to players that did Reload and they're like, oh, we don't fucking care. We don't care if we win or not. Teams said the same thing about the US Nationals back in the day. Teams would say the same thing about DreamHacks. They'd get flown out by their orgs to DreamHacks. They'd be like, yeah, I'm just here to have fun. They'd go out drinking every night. They'd play a bunch of matches hungover. Oh, no, we lost, whatever, you know, not the end of the world. USN, same thing. I remember talking to a team that got like 4th place at USN, and one of the players was literally like, I don't care if we finish 4th. Now I get to go drinking and hang out at the casinos. And it's like, do you think that certain teams approach events like Reload, like EWC, with less stress, lowered expectations, and ultimately less of a competitive drive that makes them less likely to win? Do you think that teams approach it that way? And I say that to you as somebody who was a coach of pros. Would you see these events any differently?
No, I think anyone's saying that's mostly coping. Like, how many of them did said it after the fact that they lost? The majority, or
I mean, some of them as well. Like I would talk to teams during DreamHack, and they're like, "Oh, we don't give a shit. We're just here to have fun."
I wasn't. It depends. Yeah, I wasn't young. I wasn't competing during DreamHack, and I kind of when I was watching, I did see a lot of like subs. Like for like TSM had like Tim Z right or something, or I actually I have no idea.
Get players, or they were in between roster moves, and I
have no idea. But nowadays, I would say no. I would say every team tries their ass off for EWC. Teams should have, and I'm sure from who I've talked to tried their ass. I don't know who you talked about. Who I talked to tried their ass off at Reload. And they matter. They do very much matter. Now, what I will say about the event formats is that they tend to they do objectively produce less competitive results. Now, Reload is obvious for that, obvious.
Reload had a lot of fun little quirks to it.
Yes.
And I do, honestly, I do appreciate that they tried something different for a non-circuit event.
Yeah, it was fine. Like they preface it with being experimental. The thing with EWC is it has legitimacy because of money, but it's so short that like even in other games, more established games, pros will say, "Oh, it's less competitive because it's so short." And the reason why shortness matters is because if you have 16 teams and you have an 18 playoffs and you need to eliminate half the teams in 2 days, you don't get to see the extent of matches happen, right? Like you could get the number 1 seeded team in the world and then get unlucky and get the number 2 seeded team in the world and then just be out of the tournament even though you were number 3 seeded team in the world, right? Just out of pure luck. Whereas like majors and SI, I feel like they're more ingrained in players' heads. 1, because of legacy, obviously, but 2, because the format is long enough to where if you're truly at number 3 in the world, then you play number 1 and 2 first thing in the game. You're not out yet. You have space to kind of like grapple around and push through. So I would say teams are taking it seriously, but the argument I have, I do think EWC is like legitimate in terms of like, because it's everyone's trying their ass off, but at the same time, it's tough to say how it measures you for an SI or major, not necessarily how good you are. Like all props to Secret for not dropping a map. They're amazing. They're definitely the best team in the world at EWC. I don't know how it prepares you comparatively to SI and a major because those events are so much longer.
I think the other thing with EWC is that there's no institutional support for it. It has gone through a variety of different names, right? It was like Gamers Without Borders or whatever, and then it was Gamers Aid, and now it's EWC. When I talk to certain players in private, their feelings on obviously the politics behind EWC, which tends to be where most people get upset. And the thing for me is like, I don't really care about the political aspect of it. Like, obviously I've made my position on it known, right? I have no desire and no interest to go over to Riyadh and be window dressing in a state that I don't agree with the government and stuff on.
Yeah.
I have no problem with Saudi Arabian investment for TOs and stuff like that. One of the companies that I worked for right before Esports was actually owned jointly by Qatari and Saudi Arabian royal families. Like, money's going to come from anywhere. You need to be able to pay. You need to be able to pay your bills. I draw the line at physically going there. I obviously have issues with that. If they move the Esports World Cup to Canada next year, yeah, I'd probably end up working it. Like, where the money comes from doesn't trouble me so much as the location that I'm going to work. But that's a whole other conversation for another day. Yeah. But I know that there are a lot of players who privately believe the same. I've had conversations with at least 5 players who are like, I think what's going on over there is abhorrent. I don't want to go, but my alternative is that I get kicked from the team. And now that every team is going, congratulations, you're just never going to be able to compete. And people need to be able to pay their bills. So I don't begrudge people who go over there. But the one thing that I've always thought, again, irrespective of where it is, irrespective of where the money's coming from, EWC is just a one-off event where they just throw a ton of money at something, and that's it. There's no disrespect. I don't think there's much prestige in winning the Esports World Cup. I think the big selling point is the amount of money you win. It is life-changing money for these teams. Yeah. And in something like esports, where your shelf life in esports could be a couple years, either as a caster, a producer, a coach, a player, doesn't matter. Get that bag. I think you're stupid to not take every opportunity to get as much money as possible, because you could only be relevant for 2 years, 3 years. Get that bag. Make a lot of money. Who cares, right? If you're in it for the long term, which I like to think I am, I'm a bit more picky and choosy with where I go and with what I do and to whom I give my business. But the thing for me is, like, the Esports World Cup is just an isolated event that pays a lot of money. You're not getting a trophy that has any kind of history behind it. You're not getting you're not winning an event that is deeply ingrained in a circuit like SI is, like a major is. It's just, hey, this is a big event that's held in a country that very few people would go to, where I'm going to make $1 million. Great. Like, that to me is the allure for EWC. If money is not your priority, I don't think players prioritize it as high as they do a regular major. To them, winning the Munich major coming up is more important in terms of prestige than winning EWC. Now, obviously, I talk to some players and maybe they're blowing smoke up my ass. Maybe all the players are lying to me. Maybe they're lying to themselves. I don't know. You have a finger on the pulse of a completely different set of players. Yeah. But when I look at something like Reload, which was a fun one-off tournament, or I look at something like EWC, to me, obviously, they don't mean as much as winning SI. They don't mean as much as winning a major. They don't mean as much as winning your respective league. So I do wonder if unconsciously players are less likely to try because the actual weight of the event is a little bit lighter. Yeah. I don't know.
The players I talk to now count EWC a little higher than the major. Okay. Just because of the money. So yeah, like you said, for them it's the money. Yeah.
And I think it depends on what you're looking for. Some players don't like, some players just want to win a lot of money. Like, this is, at the end of the day, this is a job. Like, for most people, jobs are designed to make you enough money to comfortably live. Yeah. Like, there are players who don't really care about the glory, as crazy as that might sound. And I mean, players in private have said, like, I'm just doing it for a paycheck. I'm just doing it because it's easy, and working a regular job kind of sucks. And you know what? I don't fault them for that. Work, for the most part, is not fun. So if you can make money and work less, I highly recommend it.
Offshoot, like JV92 came into my chat and I asked him, like, one more SI or 2 EWCs. He picked SI, and I said 1 more SI or 3 EWCs. Then he picked EWCs because, like, he said too much money, bro. So yeah.
And also, I mean, when you look at players from Brazil, money matters way more because it goes much farther, right? Like, if you are from, like, let's say you were born and raised in Los Angeles or Chicago or New York City or Toronto, winning $250,000 isn't actually going to get you as far as you think. If you were born in Sao Paulo to, like, a middle income family in Brazil, $250,000 US is life-changing money. I mean, it's obviously life-changing money for some people in North America too, don't get me wrong, but, like, if you were born in, like, California, 250 grand isn't going to make a dent towards buying a house. If you were born in certain countries, that don't have the same economic and financial prospects, that's a lot of money. You know, like I don't fault them whatsoever for doing that. Now, obviously, some of the players in Brazil are born to very wealthy families, so maybe the money isn't that important either. But it just depends on what your priorities are. We talked a lot about EML. Anything in particular that you want to discuss before we move on to NA and then wrap up with South America League? I mean, G2 won today. They beat, what was it? They beat Wild. They beat Mako. I can't remember who they won. I had it up here.
Yeah. G2 beat Wild. Falcons demolished Secret. I didn't watch the other games because
Fnatic beat Mako, I believe it was.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I 9 to 5 at lab, and then I come home and then I stream. So I'm gonna go over the games tomorrow. But yeah, I don't watch all the games, sadly, being the esports guy myself.
That is okay. You have a life and a real job, not an esports job. You have a real job.
Yeah.
So that puts both Team Falcons and G2 at the very top, along with Fnatic. All three of them are in a 3-way tie. They're all undefeated. So I mean, you look at these teams, and I think Fnatic is kind of a surprise. Fnatic's team on paper doesn't strike me as, being the best. They also finished dead last in stage 2, but they did change up their team. So I mean, you bring some people in, you bring some people out, and now you're having greater success. Of course, they've already matched their win total from last stage. By the way, Fnatic in stage 1 went 2-7. They are already 2-0. So hell yeah,
nice. Hell
yeah. They've already made it.
Hell yeah, Fnatic. Yeah.
Falcons doing well in Europe shouldn't really surprise anybody. I am very fascinated if Falcons make it to Munich to see how that translates to a quote unquote real competitive event, because they used to be called like the EWC merchants. They got blown up in EWC,
and
so now where are you going to go? So
yeah. Hold on, it might be reversed now. Reverse the curse.
You think that the secret sauce was they blow up EWC?
I think so. And now they win Munich and SI, and Shaiko's a goat forever. Bing bang boom.
Before we turn to NA, speaking of Shaiko, he got a charm in the game. What do you think of it?
I think it's deserved. I think it's just people got mad because he stopped streaming, but you got to realize they schedule these charms out years in advance. So
usually it takes about 12 months. Mine was, I was contacted 11 months before it made it to the game.
Yeah, so Shaiko was probably streaming more around the time that they were like, you get a charm, and then he stopped streaming to focus on playing and bing bang boom. So yeah.
No, I remember there's been a couple people who did this. I think Fuya was one of them. I think she got a charm in game. I can't remember. Lieutenant Custard got a charm in game. There were a lot of streamers who grinded and grinded and grinded. They made the metrics. They finally got a charm, and then just like the winds changed. And by the time the charm came out, they had other interests. I say this as somebody who has a charm in the game. It is obviously a really cool honor. I run my charm on virtually 0 guns because I run Kix's charm on every single gun.
Oh.
So it's like. It's like, I have 2 great charms that I can run on any gun at any time. But it's like when I first got the charm, I was obviously like, I wanted to grind. I wanted to be the best. Like, Super had a ton of subs. Like Uzi right now had I think he was top 10 most subbed streamers on Twitch. He has a great charm as well. For those of you that are not aware, and this is not just a shameless plug for me, this is a shameless plug for everybody, Shaiko, Uzi, etc., is that if you subscribe to their Twitch channel, you get their charm in the game. If you have a Twitch Prime sub, which is free, you can get up to 12 charms a year just by using it elsewhere every single month. All you got to do is just go to their Twitch channel and just subscribe to it. It's really that simple. Though I don't think anybody who's watching this is oblivious. I think everybody who's watching this podcast probably already knows all this stuff. But if you're a huge fan of people like Jinxie, like Macy J, like Lieutenant Custard, who we were talking about, like Foxay, like Bolo, like Shaiko now, like Pengu, you can go to their channels and subscribe to them on Twitch, and then you'll get the charm in game that you can use on your weapons. You just got to make sure your Ubisoft Connect and your Twitch are linked together. So I like Shaiko's charm. I think it's really, really nice. I'm going to go out of my way to go sub. I got Uzi's a couple months ago, so my Twitch Prime is going to go over to Shaiko probably sometime this week. Yeah.
Nice.
Gotta collect them all, even though I never use them, I still like having them. You don't have a charming game, right?
No.
Okay. I hope you get one soon. And obviously, if you are in the process of getting one, you will be under NDA, which means you will not be able to speak about it. So do not give anything away. But I do hope, with how much you stream and all the work you do, I think you warrant a charm, and I'm hopeful that you get one at some point.
Thanks. I have an honorary one, the Deimos Trophy. That's like my fake charm.
True.
My fake charm in the game. Yeah.
That's the those are part of the legacy bundles, which one of my calls is immortalized in the game as well on that drone skin and the background card, which is pretty cool. I had no idea they were doing that. I kind of wish they'd reached out to me about it earlier because I didn't even remember the quote. Like when they told me it, I thought they had confused it with Kix's "Why are you sprinting?" And I was like, wrong caster. And then they're like, no, it was from like a Team 1 versus Navi group stage match in 2022. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I was like, I feel like I've made some decently memorable calls. I wish you'd used one that I liked and knew more. I'm in no way, shape, or form am I ungrateful, and I don't want anybody taking it that way. It is a huge honor. I just kind of scratched my head and I was like, why that one? Why didn't you? Well,
I feel like there was other ones. I feel like there are other ones. I won't lie. Yeah.
I think with the new legacy set, I think it was Ace of Pyrite who just got immortalized, which honestly, probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. So kudos to him for getting his words. It was either him or Dezichu. It's one of the two. I mean, they are quite the duo. They're, in my eyes, often interchangeable. You know, same height. One of them has hair, one of them doesn't. So, you know, that's really.
Did you cast? Oh, I don't want to be wrong on this. I'm so sorry. Did you cast Charlotte finals?
Yes. With
So were you Be Patient iconic?
Yeah, that's my line. Yeah.
That was a banger.
I was amazed. That went viral the other day. Like somebody like tagged me in it because I don't know who it was, but there's somebody on Twitter who will like in paint will draw a scene and be like, what is this? And it was iconic hiding in the corner by the electrical drop and door leading into the basement of Oregon. And that's when I did the Be Patient iconic line. And it was just like, it just kind of flowed, whatever. And I didn't realize how many people knew that line. It was like, to me, it doesn't register, but like people were eating it up. I couldn't believe it, man.
Bro, when people bully NJR, they reply to him on Twitter and say, Be Patient iconic.
I was not aware of the effect that my words could have on such things. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Maybe I'll submit that and see if they'll do something. Iconic, by the way. Hope we get to see him return. He just underwent wrist surgery not too long ago, and this is the perfect way for us to talk about not Iconic, but the rest of North America. NA League obviously has both of their games done. I assume because you are an NA boy, you are probably most familiar with this region. Envy, who was in dead last in stage 1, who, very similar to what we saw out of Fnatic, have exceeded their win total. They won a single game in stage 1, finished very dead last with 4 points. And Fett, would you believe it? They have 6 points and they're in top of the NA League standings. Do you think that's a blip? Do you think they're the real deal? Do you think Envy will be able to maintain it after their first 2 play days against Team Cruelty and against Cloud9?
Yeah, I think obviously their roster move was a success, right? Like obviously they made an improvement. Aiden Tax is an amazing player. He came from an amazing team that taught good values. And typically when you pick up players, those are the players that will improve you, right? Teams that impart values on you. They were under Merc as a coach. So you get Stompins, you get Franklin, who's now dominating, who was Stompins IGL, dominating T2, T3. They've like literally won everything. And now Aiden Tax, who's tearing it up in Pro League and performing very well, put his team in first place. I do think the first 2 teams he beat are on the lower half level. So I think we'll have to see how they do against the top teams, because the number one thing is like, okay, you're beating on the lower half teams. Do you make the major? And that's the issue I had with 2023 Beast Coast, that we were beating all the plumbers, right? But then when it came to playoffs time, we just fell short. And that very first stage, 2023, we lost 3 BO3s in a row to not make the major. So that's where it stings the most. So that's where it matters, and that's where we'll have to see more from them. But obviously, successful roster change. I do think, however, that they have only beaten lower half teams so far. I think the favorites, SRDZ, are still projected to be going to the event no matter what. I think SSG follows closely after that. And then I'm praying to God that my boys on MAD, I'm no longer with MAD, content creator wise, but those are my boys. Those are my sweet little children. I'm praying to God they make the event. I would cry if they didn't.
MAD is in second place. They are also undefeated. They are there are only 3 undefeated teams. One of them is Shopify, but both their victories obviously came in overtime, so they don't get all the same points.
The Troy
MAD MAD is basically that. For people who are unaware, the current MAD roster is 4 of the players from Beast Coast that won that major championship that Fett was obviously the coach of. They just don't have the French Canadian of spirits. Instead, they brought in a Brazilian in Kino to fill a similar role, not an exact role, but a similar role. M80 had victories over both OXG and LFO, which is that standby team, which was Luminosity before Luminosity decided to dog the squad and pull out at the last second again. I have very few nice things to say about Luminosity as an organization. I have dealt with some of them behind the scenes. I think the people who work there are, and then I think the way that they've handled Rainbow Six is, so I have very few nice things to say about Luminosity. And what really irks me the most is that they are one of like 3 Canadian esports orgs.
Oh no.
I know. Anyway, Team Cruelty looked like hot dog ass. What an awful looking team. They look absolutely dreadful. They obviously got 7-0'd. It's only the second 7-0 that we've seen. I think is M80 7-0 OXG in stage 1 or something like that. And then obviously Cruelty got 7-0'd by Envy in, honestly, in terms of level of Siege, one of the worst games of Siege I've casted in I don't even know how long. It was dreadful. Yeah. It was a miserable experience.
And I don't know why or how, but they don't have Ivan anymore. That's like their best player.
Didn't he leave the team really quite dramatically, basically saying that like the coaches were meddling and the org was meddling and that there were huge problems? And then when I think it was Ivan, I could be wrong. Somebody, in the comments here, obviously when this gets posted can correct me, but as far as I'm aware, there was bad blood between him and the organization and the team. It wasn't that his abilities are the reason why.
Yeah. I mean, that guy was their best player by far. So, I mean, sucks for them. Very sorry to the team. The rest of his teammates that don't have to play with, like, that can't play with them anymore. That guy was the reason they won any games at all.
Yeah. I mean, you're coming from Mexico. You're coming from a region that gets disrespected quite heavily. You're coming from a region that has very limited money in terms of like esports funding. Like there's not a lot of big orgs down there that you see in like FPS games, especially in Rainbow Six. You don't really, like outside of Geo, you don't really have any like well-known Mexican players. I think Crixer is Mexican, if memory serves correctly.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
But I mean, like obviously Geo was the big one, and even then, these are not like Mexican players. As far as I'm aware, both Crixer and Geo just have Mexican heritage. They're not like born and raised like
the whole time.
Yeah, they didn't grind through like Mexico to get here. But yeah, I mean, Team Cruelty they're tremendously bad, and they're not going to have a lot of opportunity to improve. They're the type of team that's going to play their 9 group stage days, and then that's basically going to be it, and then they're going to move on. They're not going to have like any. Like, honestly, this team should be playing in every single T2 event that possibly exists that they can get their hands on to try and vibe as a team. And I don't know if they're ever going to bring on any, like, maybe, like, I'm assuming they call them in Spanish. Maybe they'll bring on some Spanish-speaking players from North America, very similar to what we saw out of, what is it, 9Z in South America, where they're Argentinian, but they started bringing in more Brazilians, and now they are a majority Brazilian roster. I don't know. I mean, NA is really interesting right now because you've got the top 3 teams are Envy, M80, and Wildcard. I actually hung out with Troy a couple days ago, and he said, and I do hope I'm not breaking his trust, he thinks Wildcard is actually a very good team, and he thinks they're the real deal. So he would not be surprised to see them continue to do well. Now, you said that when a team loses an event, and they say, oh, I didn't really care, that it's cope. Shopify Rebellion did almost lose to Wildcard. It was an 8-7 victory. Is it potentially cope that Troy is saying they're a good team just to make Shopify Rebellion look better? I mean, I don't think so because Wildcard then immediately 7-2'd SSG, but I mean, still.
I think well, it's too early to say for me about Wildcard. I think Wildcard have historically, I'm pretty sure they own an SSG, just like playstyle versus playstyle, and then I think the 8-7 thing is just like a Troy feature. Like anytime Troy's on a team, that guy has like an uncanny ability to go to overtime, and then like with like 4, like he'll lose you like a round to go to OT, and then win you the round in max OT, and then he'll walk up in your face and scream really nasty and mean, hurtful things at you. Sorry.
Isn't it fun?
Troy.
Isn't it fun?
No, it's fun, dude. My first time going against Troy internationally, I called a timeout in O2. He started screaming at me. Like, what did I do? I'm kidding.
Are you scared, Fett? Are you scared? Why are you calling a fucking timeout so you can shake over there? Huh?
Yeah, so that's fun. But no,
I've heard him yell far too many times for my own liking. So
yes. I think it'll take time to tell. But I'm rooting for M80, so sadly, Wildcard's out of the question for me.
That's how it works. Wildcard is going up against M80 next week, obviously. DZ versus Cruelty. I just don't see how things get much better for Cruelty. The question marks for me, obviously, will be this DZ roster. Their record through the first 2 playdays, 15 rounds won, 14 rounds lost. Not ideal. They took C9 to OT. I mean, if you're saying that Envy dismantling C9 7-5 is Envy beating up on a bad team, then you have to wonder why DZ struggled more with Cloud9 than Envy did.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, we'll see. I know I'm not gonna count Cruelty out until they get 1 win, because I think every team like Cruelty has a 360 no scope on a random top contender throughout the stage. Last stage it was M80, so it'll happen, right? Wild had a 360 no scope on Falcons in email last stage too, so there's always a 360 no scope that happens somewhere in the stage, and you just gotta be ready for it.
Very briefly before we move over to SAL and wrap up our first episode, last stage, far and away, the most played map across all regions was Cafe. We are not seeing that so far here. Bank is the most played map in EU, in South America. It's Lair, it's Cafe in North America. Why do you think we're starting to see such a variance between these stages, and why wasn't that present all the way back in stage 1?
Man, I don't really know, actually. I don't know what causes teams to go towards certain maps. I do think certain regions lean towards maps, and then it kind of shifts around. Like Brazil used to have a really nasty bank, then BDS took over, started going ridiculously undefeated on it, and now EU's the best bank region.
Europe had Clubhouse for a long time.
NA
had Oregon.
Nighthaven, NA's Nighthaven was really dominant for a while. So I think it just continues to shift around. The more people clash internationally, the more things get brought back. And then it all depends on the best team in the region and what maps they like, if that makes sense. Your pillars of teams. So NA was the best at Cafe and Nighthaven because DZ fucking loved it. Troy loved it. Right, on those maps. So when back in 2024, sorry. So it just shifts. It just shifts with the times, I guess. I don't know.
What's your go-to on Lair? I want to try to get a good read on Lair here. I said this on the broadcast with Jesse on, I think it was Saturday, when we had 3 layers for SAL. I was a certified Lair hater. I thought the map was way too big. I thought it was suffering from roomitis. I thought that it was just I don't know. I didn't really like it. It kind of looked too samey. I like Lair now. I have the same thing happened with Nighthaven Labs, where I despised Nighthaven Labs for the first 6 months, and then I came around on it. And now I'm kind of back to where it's Nighthaven Labs is already to me is kind of tired. I'm kind of I'm kind of souring on Nighthaven Labs again. Yeah. But then I look at Lair and it's I'm enjoying it. Do you feel the same? Are you a Lair hater like I used to be?
I thought it was gonna be too big and roams were gonna be insane, but then it ended up being it's so big that if you over roam, they can just hit site. So that's cool. And then it became okay, the map's way too linear, much more linear than I thought it would be, right? You either go down Skybridge on every single site, or that Skybridge area, that door, you either go that on every site, or you go operational mezzanine on every site. So that's where I meant with Lair. I think the best team on it from last stage and the international event was Shopify Rebellion, because it was either that or G2, right? G2 was the best layer in EU, and Shopify was the best layer in NA.
FaZe was good statistically on it too, weren't they? I vaguely remember FaZe being quite good. It was either very good or very bad, one of the two. I always forget.
They were good on it against Brazilian teams, but I don't think they would stand a chance versus G2 or Shopify's layer.
Okay.
In my head.
Now DZ obviously likes Nighthaven still, so you've got your teams with their picks. We're done with NA, so obviously for people that are wondering here, Envy and M80 are on top with Wildcard, Shopify, Dark Zero, and Oxygen at the moment in the playoff spaces. NA will be back obviously on Thursday, which is September 11th, big day for Americans, obviously for big day for the world. I made a joke about this. Lynx, the caster, was not born before 9/11, or was born right before 9/11, but doesn't remember it. While you were talking about Aiden, I went to his Wikipedia page. He was born in 2006. I was about to leave high school in 2006. I am unbelievably old. I'm dust. I'm dust in the wind, Eric. I am dust in the wind, about to die.
No.
Let's move over to South America League is the last league for us to kick through, and South America League looks pretty normal. The top teams are at the top, the bottom teams are at the bottom. The top 6 teams as of 2 play days are FaZe Clan, Furia, Loud, NiP, Team Liquid, and W7M. Those are basically the 6 teams you come to expect, 6 huge organizations, 6 really well-known rosters. The only one that might be a little weird to people is Loud. They did pick up, was it Flastry? They added him back to the roster, which is now reuniting that old Raza Company Academy team that had a crazy run through the Boston SI that we did earlier this year. They sit in 3rd place, obviously a huge organization. They, Furia, and FaZe Clan are all undefeated, all 2-0, all 6 points, which is great. Team Liquid is a story because they are always talked about. They made some pretty splashy roster moves after a really disappointing Esports World Cup. Goodbye Ask, goodbye Resets, bringing in both Dafo and Lenda. Did you get to watch any of SAL to see how the team played with the new guys on the team?
No, not at all.
Okay, great. They looked good. They looked much better. Maya and Diaz both had some very good looks. Diaz's consistency fell off a bit in the second matchup. But I mean, you've got a better supporting cast. Nesk obviously looks like he's no longer the star of the show, which is, I think, good. He's at the point now where he shouldn't be. Maya is the future of that team if I'm running Team Liquid. Maya is a sensational player. Yes. And honestly, I like where Liquid's at. You know, they sit tied in 4th with NiP. NiP also looking like the real deal yet again. I think Hates and Fantasy were excellent pickups for the squad, and they're really starting to gel. I don't know if you have any other just basic stuff to touch on for SAL as a region, but things are basically going the way they should. FaZe and Fury are on top. Everybody else below them, yeah, it's pretty normal.
Yeah. But one big thing about SAL is like, one thing like we need to touch upon is like the league's no longer LAN, right?
Yeah.
And does that play a factor? Because when the league was LAN, Brazil was running everything in everyone's pockets. Yep. And even going into EWC, the traditional thing was any time during the Brazil era that you beat all the Brazilian teams in your bracket, you win the event, right? Beast Coast, Manchester bracket was Brazilian, wins the event. DZ, Charlotte, same thing. TSM, SI, same thing, right? This was not the case this time. G2 lost, and Secret bracket was NA and APAC. Does that mean NA was actually above Brazil? And because Brazil was not on LAN, did they fall off? Because we don't know. We have no idea until Munich happens. Because I remember asking a question, oh, Brazil plays a lot more Clash and abuses a lot more Clash and bans a lot more Clash than any other region. Is that meaning Brazil? Does that mean Brazil's ahead? Like, this was back during stage 1. Does that mean they're ahead? Or does that mean NA and EU are so much better at countering it that it's not as prevalent there? And I think the answer ended up being the fact that NA and EU did end up knowing how to counter it because they're better util dump regions. They're better with Nomad. They're better with Capital. They're better with, playing with ISOs and plants and not as much kills. So maybe that's what ended up happening. So is this actually the decline of Brazil? I don't know.
Is it a decline or is it everybody else catching up? This could tie back into the point you raised earlier when you're on the top for so long, people will study you and catch up to you.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. I think it is quite interesting that they're not playing out of the studio anymore. They will be playing the playoffs out of a studio on LAN. We did hear that from a producer. We did talk about that on the show on Saturday, where just because they're all playing from home doesn't mean that will be always the case. When playoffs kick in, they will once again go to a different LAN center than the one that they used last time. But I mean, there's no denying that playing on LAN gives you a huge leg up, and that was kind of the plan before COVID hit. It was to get all of these different regions playing on LAN. There was supposed to be a LAN league in Japan that was supposed to unite all of APAC. Obviously, Brazil playing on LAN in Sao Paulo. NA was supposed to play out of Vegas, which they ended up doing. I don't know if EU ever had space to play on LAN. I can't remember. I know that some of the EU teams were a little bit upset about that, but I think being able to experience the game on LAN versus experience it online is like learning to swim in a pool and then going to swim in the ocean, right? Like they're similar, but they're completely different experiences. Playing online, slower game, you're at the mercy of hit reg, you've got peeker's advantage, all that jazz. Playing on LAN, you're going to get punished for stuff all the time. You're not going to be able to get away with quickly jiggle peeking. You're going to get shut down by better players. Different guns feel completely different on LAN than they do when you're playing online.
Sound gets better apparently.
Sound apparently gets a lot better. The game feels a lot smoother. Hit reg, which was something that was in your proverbial crosshairs earlier tonight, is apparently miles better on land too. And I mean, if anybody here is watching this and you have an opportunity to go to a Siege event and play one of the games that's hosted on land, I highly encourage it, just so you know what it's like. But I will say, it's like drinking a Guinness in Ireland. Everywhere else you drink a Guinness after that's going to taste a little bit crummy because you got the real deal. You eat sushi in Japan, you eat it in a coastal city in North America, night and day, right? So just kind of prepare yourself for the fact that you might be ruining Rainbow Six for yourself for the rest of your life unless you play on land. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Brazil does have any setbacks. I mean, obviously Furious domination at Reload and then Phase's domination earlier at SI goes to show you that Brazil is still doing very well. Esports World Cup, Brazil has never done really well there. So, I mean, to me, that's more of a blip. We'll see with Munich, right? Munich will be fascinating to watch. And I say this every time. And it probably gets tiring for people to listen to. Siege is in a very unpredictable place. I think all of the regions have a couple favorites that we expect to do well. There's no guarantee they're going to make it there. And it'll be fascinating to see over the next week or two if the standings have any more movement. Because if they don't and things solidify as is, I think there's some pretty cool new storylines heading into a major that we haven't really had before.
Yep.
Thumbs up. All right, well, that exhausts our topics and our time today. One of the other things about 6-on-6 that's made a small change is that we want to be quicker. Long gone are the morose, whiny, meandering 4-hour-long episodes. We will have super shows around the time of majors where we want to bring people in from every single region to be able to talk, and those might go 3-4 hours. Sorry to our producer, David, who presumably has a life and family and would like to go outside and see the sun, but we will be having longer shows around the majors. We want to try to keep every episode to about 2-ish hours, and we want to talk about roughly 6 things. So today, our 6 topics were we got to talk about the changes to the show, we got to talk about Operation High Stakes, and then we got to cover the 4 main regions, covering 6 topics for Rainbow Six Siege. So just some small changes we're doing. I know that it's a change for a lot of you. We know that Troy is gone. We know that we're not live streaming anymore. You're going to see some new branding that's affiliated with Last Free Nation, though we are still maintaining our name 6-on-6. Everything should remain where it was, so you should still be able to find us in all the same places. We will be doing weekly shows. We have a contract. When I say we're doing weekly shows before and you roll your eyes and you say, oh, you always say that. I am contractually obligated to do a show every week. Fett is contractually obligated to do a show every week. We are bound by our word and also signature and potentially punishment by law if we don't do a show a week. So for those of you that are wondering, when's the next 6-on-6 going to be live? In a week, where we'll be talking about changes to the regions. Maybe Mint will make an appearance. Maybe we'll talk about something else. Maybe there'll be drama in the scene for us to go on about, because we touch on drama from time to time. We like to dish hot goss. You know, that's just the way it goes. Fett loves his hot takes, which is great for the algorithm and great for his personal brand. And I just try to steer the proverbial ship. On behalf of everybody here at Last Free Nation, or graphics guy Candor, everybody behind the scene, producer David, myself, and Fett, and of course Troy, because he's lurking somewhere in the shadows. Thank you for joining us on the rebirth and a new path being charted for 6-on-6. We hope you'll join us for future episodes. Take care of yourselves. Have a great week.